15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He thinks Frisbee golf is the sport of the future. She's sticking with football. They are Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio.
It was like a bad car accident last night. We just couldn't look away. What a bizarre game. Jets, Raiders. What did we learn, Perloff? Well, quite a bit. Welcome to the show, Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. So glad to have you on CBS Sports Radio. Aaron Rodgers hovers over this whole thing. Every time the Jets play a game, he's there on the sideline. We get another update on his status where he told Melissa Stark reportedly that he expects to be back in December. But the Jets lose this game last night. If you didn't stay awake for this field goal fest, Zach Wilson threw another pick at the end of the game when they had a chance to go and score a touchdown. That was one bad thing that happened. There were 100 mistakes in this game. Like I said, it was like so bad you couldn't look away.
Yeah, so have you ever seen an injured player who got more camera time than Aaron Rodgers in the history of the sport? And do you believe this is true, Maggie? You're good at detecting sort of fake stories.
Yes.
Is he really calling all these plays and getting involved? Like the extent of his involvement in the offense, is he basically a co-offensive coordinator, or is this just a narrative?
Well, I don't know if I'd be bragging about that. I don't think these play calls, this is not like, basically what the Jets offense has become is Zach Wilson, for as many bad traits and shortcomings that this young quarterback has. He is athletic and he's got a hell of an arm. So he is able to make some plays. He actually did have some timing plays last night. And the Jets defense has been good this entire year. Like,
wait. Zach Wilson, yes, I see what you're saying. He is athletic. He does have that arm, but they didn't score a touchdown last night.
Not only that, they haven't scored a touchdown since, I believe, the first quarter of the Giants game. Yeah.
They're like the 2000 Ravens without the wins. I don't see anything there. And now my question is, what's the point of coming back here? I don't even know what's the point of coming back next year. This Jets team is so bad. Can the Jets offense ever get it going? He can't come back in mid-December to this.
Well, they're 4-5 now. And this AFC, as we and many others predicted, we're going to have a lot of teams who are really good. And maybe not all of them were as good as we thought, but you're going to have so many teams fighting for this wild card. I don't see how the Jets are going to get themselves back into contention here unless Rodgers comes back. I mean, I don't think they might be too far out of it by that point, but what the AFC North is doing, what the AFC South, Houston Texans, we'll get to that. You've got a lot of other good wild card candidates here. I just don't see how the Jets keep themselves in this race.
But they're still on TV all the time. We've been force-fed them in prime time. So I think Aaron Rodgers is going to look at that. I think he's going to try, and I think this is a terrible idea, to put a 39, 40-year-old quarterback, I'm sorry.
He'll be 40 in December.
He'll be 40, who's coming off a torn Achilles to go to a 6-7 Jets team. This is the worst idea we've ever seen in NFL history. He's going to get hurt. This is a Hall of Fame quarterback who wants to play next year. He should just shut it down. I don't know why we're buying into this. He's got to shut it down because there's going to be nothing to come back to next year. If he comes back and risks injury again with an Achilles that's been sort of surgically repaired, this feels insane to me.
It is insane. That's why it feels insane. But there is nobody in the Jets organization who's going to tell him no. I mean, he's on a crusade right now to come back to put a thumb in the eye of science. I don't know. Rodgers got a lot of agendas going on right now. And I think he is going to come back to try to prove a point. And it's just the question, should he? I mean, especially last night. That was a big loss. Now, on the flip side for the Raiders, this is probably the smartest move that the Raiders have made in, I don't know, a decade. which is you fire your head coach before you play the Giants and the Jets.
Yeah.
Like, this
Good
is
timing.
the smart move. You got to look at the schedule and think, all right, where are winnable games here? Oh, yeah, home for the Giants and the Jets. Now, I didn't think that was like an amazingly well-coached game, but you're 2-0 under interim head coach Antonio Pierce, and the vibes are great.
Oh, they're wonderful. Let's check in 2 weeks on that Antonio Pierce project. 10-point underdogs versus Miami this week at Miami. Then they got the Chiefs coming into town. You better up your game as an entire team. If they play that game last night that they played against the Jets, against the Chiefs, they're going to lose by 30 points. So this is another very bad team, which is 5-5. I don't think that record speaks to where they are right now. Yes, they have two great players, Devontae Adams and Josh Jacobs, on offense. And I guess you can run Josh, like they did last night, run Josh Jacobs into a close game. I just think that they don't have, with Aiden O'Connell, a quarterback, they're going to pick him apart once they get 3 weeks of tape. There were so many plays where he could have hit Devontae Adams even more than he did. I think this quarterback situation, a rookie fourth-round quarterback, it's not Aiden O'Connell's fault. They're going to get tape on him, and this is going to be ugly.
It's funny, and I want to hear from Antonio Pierce, but Aiden O'Connell, looks like a rookie, and I get why they did this, right? It's like, if you are going to make these big changes and you're going to fire Josh McDaniels, then of course Jimmy G takes a seat, and of course you got to see what the rookie has. But now you're kind of like, you're right here in this sort of fringe of the playoff race, and Jimmy G is clearly the better quarterback, and he's sitting there, presumably healthy on the sideline. If I'm a Raider fan, I kind of feel conflicted about that because Jimmy would clearly be an upgrade over Aiden O'Connell.
Oh, well, Jimmy was pretty bad last time we saw him on the field.
But that's running Josh McDaniels' offense. Maybe it's different this time when you can pass the ball, when you can hand the ball off to Josh Jacobs 25 times a game.
I don't know. Jimmy looks injured. He looks inaccurate. Everything that he was 10 for 21 for 121 yards in his last game against the Lions defense that just got torched by Justin Herbert. I don't think Jimmy has it this year either. I think the team has these stars at the top and these names that we know, but underneath they're just rebuilding. So they're going to go 5 they're 5-5 now. Chiefs, Dolphins. If they fall to 5-7, I think the narrative changes really quickly on this team. Kind of like, okay, we have an interim coach, a rookie quarterback. What are we really doing here? Let's build for the future.
Here's Antonio Pierce on the message to the team.
It's football. Not everything's going to go your way. Nobody's trying to make a mistake. Nobody does anything on purpose to have a bad call or, do something silly. And like I told these guys at the very beginning, we're all fortunate to be in the National Football League. We're all fortunate to work for a great organization, fan base, and alumni. And when you come to work every day, do it with a smile. Because one day that door's going to close, you're not going to be able to walk in there no more.
Well, and they were smoking cigars yet again in the locker room. I mean, the smoking cigars, that's their thing now. That's fine. It's cool. Like I said, the vibes are all good. Yeah, I think if you're a Raider fan, you were just happy with a little glimpse of something good after all the dysfunction.
Definitely, but let me ask you a question. If you're a Raiders fan and Antonio Pierce wins some games here and they hire him, where are you as a team where you have a former NFL linebacker who's a defensive coach in the AFC West with your best player on offense being a running back? Is that a formula for success in today's NFL?
Well, and who knows if the running back's even going to be there? You franchise tagged him already. You definitely need another quarterback. Obviously.
Aiden O'Connell could develop. I think Pierce loves him. Maybe they go back with Aiden O'Connell. I just wonder if that's really this identity under Antonio Pierce is not I don't think anybody wants to hire a defensive coach anymore. I think everybody's going to want to hire an offensive coach. If they bring in a new quarterback, you're going to want, I think the owner, Mark Davis, is going to want an offensive genius. So I think that's really Antonio Pierce's biggest hurdle to get this job full time.
855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. It's funny, you see that on the other side, right, with the Jets, where this offense is so just not impactful. Like they cannot score touchdowns. There's no chance you can win in the NFL. I mean, I know they've won some games with their defense, but it just becomes so much harder, and they have a defensive head coach. So, like, where do you go when the offense needs something big? Who do you turn to if the head coach is the defensive guy?
Similar issue. So, I mean, the Jets are going all in on Ben Johnson in the offseason. I assume the Lions offensive coordinator or this guy on the Texans is emerging out of nowhere. They have a great defense. Yeah. They have a great defense. So bring in an offensive genius and hope to fix his team. The
Wait,
problem
the Jets
you have
can't do that.
I know the problem you have is Aaron Rodgers runs a team, and he's going to want Nathaniel Hackett there, so they might be stuck. But the Raiders can bring in a heavy offense guy, Ben Johnson, Slowick, or anybody, because Antonio Pierce is great, and I love the scars, I love all that, but this is not a long-term formula.
855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. So, EJ, I think we've got a couple different things here in terms of a poll, and you can always go to @Maggie and Pearl on Twitter. I refuse to call it X. Should Aaron Rodgers come back for this? Number one. And number two, do you think Antonio Pierce should get the job? I know it's been only 2 games against the New York teams, but, I mean, you got to, listen, as Chris Collinsworth told us last night, you can win in this league on heart. Okay, sure. Like a main investor in Pro Football Focus, which is basically just reduces the game to zeros and ones. But yeah, Antonio Pierce definitely has guys rallied around him, playing harder. It's not just like new coach, new energy. I mean, I think you get that for like 1 game, like Jeff Saturday last year. Got it for 1 game with the Colts. They go and beat the Raiders and they lost the rest of the way. This seems like guys are really following him.
Because they won that 16-12 crap fest last night? I mean, come on.
Did you see Devontae Adams dancing in the locker room? And that guy looked like he was the most miserable guy in the NFL. And now, all of a sudden, he's doing the Dougie and he's popping his collar in the locker room. Now he's the happiest guy in the NFL.
They beat the Jets at home 16-12. The good teams do not play 16-12 games.
Well,
they
beat
are not a good team.
30-6, but I feel like this show could probably beat the Giants 30-6.
Yeah, the Raiders, enjoy it now. I think it's going to be 2 really tough assignments coming up against the Dolphins and Chargers. One thing about Aaron Rodgers, don't just put up the poll, should he come back to this? Because I think the huge mistake that is coming up is he's going to come back when they're 6-7 or they're 500, where even with the slimmest playoff hope, he's going to say, you know what, I'm still coming back. When we all know the Jets are not going anywhere, he's going to foolishly say, I can do something here. Don't you see Aaron Rodgers doing something like that, even in a possible situation? Saying, I could be the white knight?
Yes, of course. Rodgers been waiting his whole career for this. I mean, the more and more we kind of learn, I think, about Rodgers or whatever public face he wants to put out and present to us, he would love this moment more than anything. This guy is like built for just wanting moments.
But the moment is not going to be with them a 7-6 record and all they have to do is win 1 or 2 games. I think he's going to come back in an impossible situation. Look at their last 4 games. At Miami, Washington, that's a good game. At Cleveland, you're going to put Aaron Rodgers up there against Myles Garrett, Maggie? Why would you do that?
I would not do that.
And then at New England. So Rodgers will definitely be there for that game.
And to be honest, I think that's why if you're a Jets fan, I think you got to be rooting for the Jets to get blown out in these next 2 games. I think the last night the season ended for the New York Jets. So if you're looking at,
well, you're a Jets fan, so you have a keen radar for this kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean the last night there's a must-win game. Now you're 4-5. You have 2 tough divisional foes coming up. One of those games being on the road, like it's over for them. But if they find a way to win one of these games, it's going to continue the Aaron Rodgers Fantasyland quest for him to come back from an Achilles injury in less than 4 months. They would be better off losing these games and then kind of making it clearer to everybody that Aaron Rodgers can't step back on that football field for a team that's 4-9 or whatever. Like they have to lose these games to keep Rodgers safe from himself. As crazy as that sounds.
We must lose these games to protect Aaron Rodgers.
Honestly,
that's what it's come down to.
It's the most Jets thing ever, and it's actually would be the smartest thing for them because he would come back. He would get hurt. This offensive line is not good. And now all of a sudden you lost him for next year too.
Yeah.
There is like a little bit of a controversy brewing in the chat, youtube.com/CBS Sports Radio or twitch.tv/CBS Sports Radio. I thought this was kind of a throwaway line, but guys have sort of, folks, the weedos, the coffee drinkers, good morning, caught on to this, that Jimmy is not an upgrade over Aiden O'Connell, says Michael Fry.
Yeah.
And
I kind of agree with that.
Maggie's Karaoke Pants says Jimmy should be done. It's not a specific offense that he struggles in. But then Pine Needle says all Jimmy ever did with the 49ers was win. He's a very decent to good quarterback. And he was in a bad situation with Josh McDaniels. So got a little bit of like if the Raiders, I know it's going to be tough, but if they were to keep winning, at some point do you go back to a guy with more experience? But then again, if they're winning, then it probably means Aiden O'Connell's doing something pretty good.
Yeah. Well, same with the Jets. If the Jets keep winning, then are they going to pull Zach Wilson if all of a sudden they get red hot with Zach Wilson? least Zach Wilson can run a little bit. Now, I think they would have won the game if he didn't step out of bounds when he dove in for that touchdown. That was the greatest play Zach Wilson's ever had in the first half when he scrambled in for a touchdown.
Tell you, he's
fully
athletic.
dove. And Collinsworth, to his credit, is like, now the offensive linemen like them. And of course, he stepped out of bounds. The Jets are the Jets and maybe the Giants are the two biggest banana peel teams in the league right now. They can find them anywhere.
No, the Giants, it's not even banana peels. It's just landmines. I don't even know what you call it at this point. We'll talk about that. Or
They're
maybe
like-
we won't. This is really more about the Cowboys kind
Yeah.
of smoking them.
Please don't.
I'm sorry, man.
They're like Joe Pesci and the other guy in Home Alone. Basically, it's not just a banana peel. The entire
David Stern.
Yeah. It's,
No, not David Stern.
Daniel Stern.
Daniel Stern. Yeah.
Right,
David
David
Stern's the former NBA commissioner.
Basically,
Also in Home Alone. It's weird when he got hit with an iron.
the floor is covered with
Hilarious.
ball bearings for the Giants.
Stepping on a nail.
Yeah. Whereas the Jets give you, they're even more dangerous because they give you a little bit of hope. That's got to be the worst thing as a fan. I'm sorry, EJ. But I would rather be the Giants right now than the Jets.
No. See, EJ is a Jets fan where you might get a little hope like in the micro, but on the macro level, you have no hope.
Right. I think there's an understanding that this is never going to end well, but you
No.
want the ride to at least be somewhat enjoyable, and even that can't happen for the Jets. It can't happen. Like, maybe you say, okay, Rodgers gets hurt, maybe they can find a way to be competitive, stay in the race, and they can't even accomplish that because they want to have a million penalties that throw us every single drive. They
Yeah.
want to throw bear-breaking, game-crushing interceptions on final drive. Like you said, they just can't get out of their own way. I mean, you say you're stepping on a banana peel. To me, they're almost like Wile E. Coyote. It just feels like they get hit with an anvil just when you think that things are going to go right.
Let's hear Robert Saleh on the offense shooting itself in the foot.
The hard part for me is when I'm watching, you're watching the game, and obviously, like I've said, it's very easy to look at the play caller, the head coach, the signal, or the quarterback, but they're moving the ball. Today we moved the ball, and just penalties at on the O-line, penalties at tight end, penalties at running back, it's just dumb stuff.
Whoa. Why wouldn't we look at the head coach and the play caller when it's the penalties? Like that, generally, those kinds of things do fall under the head coach. I don't know if that's fair or not, but the Jets get 8 penalties for 83 yards compared to the Raiders who only had 3. Penalties, Perloff, generally are a reflection of the head coach, aren't they? Especially the pre-snap stuff.
You've always said that. I'm not quite sure I know the answer to that because if you have a bad player who can't block anyone, aren't they going to hold more? Isn't that on the player?
I don't know. Isn't it also on the coach to try to? I mean, I know like a refereeing right now and officiating feels so up and down. But
I mean,
the
Jets
pre-step stuff is definitely coaching.
But I think the key call was after the aforementioned Zach Wilson scramble. We went out of 3. They called a holding on a run play. How do you hold on a first and goal from the 2-yard line? They called a hold. I didn't think they needed to call that at all. That wasn't on coaching. I think sometimes just you get tough calls. The Jets made some dumb plays, but they have some dumb players too. I'm not putting that all on the coaching.
Everyone needs to get an IQ test. 855-212-4CBS.
Oh,
855.
Jets offense. I want to be clear
Yes,
about that.
the defense is.
We all love the defense. If we could give that defense to a good team, wow.
Quinnen Williams, Sauce Gardner, Jermaine Johnson,
Quincy Williams was
Quincy.
fantastic again. I thought C.J. Mosley was fantastic again.
Jermaine Johnson had a sack.
Jermaine Johnson made plays. I mean, they're wasting away one of the best Jet defenses in the team's history on Zach Wilson.
And that is exactly what we said last year.
I know.
And
That's the problem about being a Jet fan is that you're in this never-ending loop of bad offense can't help great defense. And I saw the Jets lose AFC Championship games on this same formula. Like, when are the Jets going to figure out that in order to win in this NFL, you have to modernize your offense. You have to be explosive. It
well,
seems
they
like they
tried
don't
to
value
get
that.
they got Aaron Rodgers. It's just he got hurt.
I think the Jets' failures have a different flavor because, as Maggie mentioned, Aaron Rodgers seems to be running the entire team. Yeah. So it's not just the normal, hey, the Jets are messing this up. Now they're kowtowing to this Hall of Fame quarterback, and they're making possibly a bad. I think that's why they kept Zach Wilson. I think you've said that too. That's why they kept Zach Wilson after week 1. When Rodgers got hurt, I think 31 other teams in the league bring in a veteran quarterback, but the Jets did not.
No, and it's not just like Zach Wilson. They also kept Tim Boyle because it's Rodgers' dude who they went to go see Wicked together. Who cares?
Outstanding play.
Who cares? And you just didn't do anything. And
I cared. I cried at the end of that wicket.
All right, 855-212.
By the way, I would kill for an invite to go with Tim Boyle and Aaron Rodgers to wicket.
855-212-4CBS. We see a lot of Raider fans. The vibe's immaculate, but can they sustain it? And has Antonio Pierce done enough to convince you that he is the right man for the job? As for the Jets, why would Aaron Rodgers come back to this? You're 4-5. This is going to be very, very tough to make the playoffs. 855-212-4CBS. Coming up, we've got the latest MVP candidate and maybe one of the best stories in the NFL. Don't move. Maggie and Perloff, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. 15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
On first and goal, Stroud gets the snap. CJ looking, scrambling forward. CJ on the run across the 5. He's in! Touchdown, CJ Stroud! The quarterback with the touchdown run.
You can stream the NFL on Westwood One for free, sponsored by AutoZone all season long. You can listen to every Westwood One broadcast of the NFL live on the NFL app by asking Alexa to open Westwood One Sports or on the Odyssey app. Get in the zone, AutoZone. The free AutoZone Fix Finder service can help you find a fix for free. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Restrictions apply. Yes, CJ Stroud, the new darling MVP candidate in the NFL. His odds went from 90-1 to 40-1 overnight.
Oh,
40-1.
Pretty crazy. I mean, it's still a really long shot, but that's a big jump.
Well, it's kind of a big jump, but still 40-1. I think that's a good bet.
Yeah.
But they're 5-4 now. The Texans. I think they kind of woke up everybody. Our producer EJ was a huge believer last week. Now I think the rest of the country is like, oh boy, this team is for real.
Well, you go into Cincinnati. Bengals have been one of the hottest teams, if not the hottest in the NFL. Won 4 in a row. Looked like Burrow was back. Everything. And the Houston Texans came in and played an unbelievable game. It wasn't perfect, obviously. Stroud threw a bad interception late, but it didn't matter because he redeemed himself for it.
Yep.
And it's weird because you're watching a rookie and you're just sort of expecting, all right, mistake is coming. The mistake is coming. But when he gets the ball and he's got time and they have a must-score drive, I'm actually starting to trust that this kid is going to find, and this young man is going to find and make the right plays. And he put them in field goal position late, and they walked out of there with a win. Massive.
Yeah. I mean, he did make a huge mistake.
Yeah.
He did make the mistake in the fourth quarter. The Bengals
also made mistakes.
At the same time should have lost that game by 2 touchdowns and should have won. They're going to really hit themselves because Tyler Boyd dropped an easy touchdown. Joe Burrow made one terrible. He made actually 3 terrible throws, 2 picks. I think Joe Burrow was reading his own headlines and thought he could do. I know that sounds terrible. He thought he could do anything he wanted last night, and you can't run around for 50 yards and then just find someone downfield because eventually you're going to throw a pick. Credit to the Texans. I think we have a show bet brewing on CJ Stroud's MVP chances. So I still think I love this conversation, but everyone's saying CJ Stroud's in the MVP conversation. Does anyone actually think CJ Stroud's going to win the MVP? If not, what are we doing here? We don't credit guys for being in the MVP conversation. I want someone to come out and say CJ Stroud is going to be the NFL MVP.
Well, here's what's keeping people from saying that. People like me who are coming, first of all, CJ Stroud, not just MVP. He could turn around the whole narrative about Ohio State quarterbacks in the NFL. He could turn around the narrative about number 2 picks overall. I mean, there could be
number 2 picks. What
for quarterbacks? There could be a lot riding on Stroud's success, but they're 5-4, and I think that's the only thing that holds me back from saying he will win it. Because listen, sports talk radio, you can't just go halfway. For saying he will win it, I don't know if he's going to get enough wins. Like we know what the voters do; they look at the gaudy record and give it to the guy who's the quarterback on a team that won 13 games. And it's like, Stroud might deserve to win it. I think the coaching staff has obviously done an incredible job here. You talk about some of the lesser known, wide receivers. I mean, they're not doing this with the star guys here. Like Tank Dell might become a star, but this has been so impressive. They're not scared of anything, and they walked into Cincinnati. I mean, so many teams cannot do this. The Chiefs can't win in Cincinnati. I mean, a lot of teams cannot go in there and win.
Okay. Yeah, he's great. But you're saying he might deserve. You said he might deserve it. You got to realize who else is in this NFL and how they're playing right now. You got Patrick Mahomes. You got Lamar Jackson. You got Jalen Hurts. You got Tua. You got guys who are. There's a lot of quarterbacks playing at the highest level. So I think he's very, very good. But are you telling me he's already better than Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes?
Well, no, I can't say that because those guys have a better body of work. I think that he's already looks like an elite quarterback, though, which is amazing considering rookies generally don't look this good in their rookie year.
No, I mean, it's statistically, obviously on track to be the greatest rookie season of all time. I just think for a 5-4 team, everyone gets obsessed with the new. I think there's a little bit of an overreaction here.
See, I don't think it's an overreaction. I think we're seeing what we think we're seeing. I don't think this is a mirage. Listen, this was a guy who, what was the whole thing about him in the draft process and watching him at Ohio State? He's the most pro-ready right now.
Yeah.
Right? And that's bearing out. Like, this is turning out to be true. He was the most pro-ready.
Okay, let's look at the process, though. If they had lost that game to the Bengals, will we be saying this now? Will we be talking about his MVP odds?
So I kind of think so, just because I do think that the quote-unquote moral victories, I do think you can get those with a guy's rookie year. Like, if you go in and you had this lead on the Bengals, but Joe Burrow does Joe Burrow things, and they win their fifth straight, it's like, okay, they lost, but that was impressive even in a loss. I think we would have been still giving him flowers.
They'd be 4-5, and the story would have been C.J. Stroud had an amazing game, but threw an untimely pick that cost them the game. That would have probably been the narrative. At 4-5,
Joe Burrow had 2 interceptions in the second half. So
right, but that pick that was
bad.
That was the worst play of the game. The thing is, if you're 4-5, there's no way you're getting the MVP. I think you nailed it. With the record is the issue here. Can the Texans win the division over the Jags? Very possible, by the way. Can they get? I think you need 12 wins to win the MVP.
Something like that.
And it's just gonna be hard. I think they're making the playoffs, but I don't think they're. Lamar's gonna have 12 wins. Patrick Mahomes gonna have 12 wins. Jalen Hurts will probably have 14 wins. I just think those wins is going to be the key factor, just like you said. I totally agree with that.
It just, that might be the one thing holding them back. But man, is this exciting. 855-212-4CBS. Let's hit the phone. Shad is in Iowa. Wants to talk about Antonio Pierce. We talked about the Raider win last night. Good morning, Shad.
How are you doing today?
We're doing great. What's on your mind?
First of all, I want to say, go Bills.
Oh, thank you.
Big one tonight.
We'll see.
Big one.
Do you want to know what's happening, Shad? As I'm watching all these AFC heavyweights fall yesterday. Ravens lose, Bengals lose, Jags lose. I'm like, oh.
Heck, even the 2 worst teams in our division lost. So
there you go. Patriots lose. Yeah, the Jets lose. This is setting up nicely here for Buffalo if they can take advantage.
But I have a question for you.
Sure.
I want to know what you think about the rule. You know, Antonio Pierce dropped that flag last night on the fumble.
Yep.
And then you can't challenge that because it gets reviewed upstairs. And then they automatically lose a timeout. They don't allow him to just pick up the flag. And they talked on the telecast about maybe he was going to challenge the spot of the ball.
Yep.
Yeah.
But
which he should have.
Yeah. Right, but you can't do that.
Yeah, no, it's a mistake on the officials' part. I mean,
you can't challenge anything, though.
You can't challenge anything, but they screwed up the spot. I understand what Antonio Pierce said. The guy was down there, and they gave him extra yards. So it was a mistake on the officials that he was trying to call out.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly, though. I don't think you can challenge anything.
Yeah, you can.
That when it comes to a turnover and there's an automatic review. You cannot challenge any part of that. So he couldn't challenge the spot. He can't challenge anything, right?
So they were debating after the play was over, like when you get into the return, can you challenge that? And they sounded a little uncertain, but I guess...
and it even happened in the Giants game, too, earlier in the day.
Yeah, Dayball did the same thing, right?
So
yeah.
I just wanted to know what your guys' thoughts were on that rule. Should they be able to pick up the flag if they were wanting to challenge a spot and the refs were like, hey, you can't do that?
Here's my thought on it. And Shad, thank you, and we'll see what happens with our Bills tonight. Here's what I kind of think about a referee, and maybe this is a good analogy because the game was in Vegas last night. I think a good referee is kind of like a good croupier at the blackjack table, where they're like, you sure you want to hit on that? You know? You sure you don't want to double down here? Just sort of give you a little you know, hey, I wouldn't split those, I wouldn't split those twos.
But he threw the flag, though. He had no choice.
I know. But
well, I think they're going to change that rule, by the way, because that was I would almost bet anything the competition committee looks at that, because that was not about whether it was a turnover, it was about where to place the ball. So what happens if the guy steps out of bounds on a pick six? I guess you could challenge that.
Well, I think every part of the turnover gets looked at by the officials, right? Andrew Bogusch is here. You look like you know the rule book better than we do, Bogues.
I don't know about that, but I think the spirit of why that they have to charge with a timeout is because then coaches will do it on accident, quote, and they get half a timeout while they're being scolded by the referee for throwing the flag incorrectly. There's got to be a penalty for putting the flag down when can't.
You're not supposed to.
No,
but you're getting a half a timeout anyway because it's reviewed.
It's a natural timeout anyway.
No, but that extended the break because Antonio Pierce puts the flag down. The referee goes over, they talk, and then he announces that it's whatever. So that's why it's gamesmanship. It could be gamesmanship. So you have to. There has to be a penalty for putting the flag down when you can't.
Why you get a full time? You get 2 timeouts instead of 1 timeout and a break. What's the difference? Isn't there enough time in a normal turnover timeout?
No, but still, there has to be a penalty for that.
For throwing the flag.
Because coaches will take advantage of doing it.
Yeah.
They'll say, "Oh, I did it by accident," and they didn't.
So I don't understand, and we probably should say that a guy catches an interception and he runs it in for a pick 6, but he steps on the line at a 2-yard line. So that should be automatic. That's part of the automatic
Any kind
review.
of pick six, yes. I think the whole thing
So
gets
New York-
reviewed. Every single part of it. The interception, the return.
So
Were
the
there any
officials-
other penalties on that play now that we're here and we're looking at it? We've seen that happen before, too, where it's like, we're here looking at this, but we also noticed there was something over here.
So the officials in New York made a mistake last. It was a flat out just an error.
But was it? I mean, they showed it once and they talked about it on TV.
Well,
and
Collinsworth kept saying it was wrong.
And it was down by contact.
Yeah.
But he touched him before he had caught the interception. And I don't know.
I think that is down by contact.
Did they ever bring what's his name in to flush it all out? Because I guess they were wrong, but maybe they weren't. And plus, they're supposed to fix those things anyway, too. There's the secondary person that's supposed to be like
the sky judge
that can fix stuff like that, procedural things like you spotted it wrong or whatever. So maybe they weren't wrong. Maybe Pierce was 100% wrong.
But I think replay always expands, right?
Yes.
So I think the rules generally every year they expand replay. This is a way to limit replay and limit challenges. I think they get rid of it. Why limit the? You should be able to throw the red flag anytime you want, in my opinion.
That's what Belichick always says. You should be able to challenge anything.
And I think that they're
But inside of
headed
2
that
minutes,
way.
I kind of get it because you don't want to potentially lose a timeout on a bad challenge when you are in a moment in the game.
Right.
But what if there was a situation in the final 2 minutes where the officials don't stop to look at it, which has happened many times?
Oh, this is what happened to Sean McVay earlier in the season. Remember, he had a bad call go against them, but it was like 2 minutes and 13 seconds, I think, left in the game, and he was out of timeout, so he couldn't challenge. And it's like, well, it was a challengeable call, but the fact that he didn't have any timeouts means you're going to get screwed on a...
And I've also seen under 2 minutes, the officials, the other teams, one of the teams is running tempo, so they don't want to stop and challenge it when it really was a mistake. I think they should expand all this. I don't know I don't think there's that much gamemanship, Bogusch. I mean, maybe
I don't think that's
maybe
what
you're an evil genius who's seeing it more than me.
I think Antonio Pierce made a mistake last night.
Yeah.
But if there's no penalty for throwing the flag when you can't, then
you think guys
coaches will absolutely
do it all the time. I mean, what have we learned about coaches over this last month with the Michigan sign stealing scandal? I mean, they'll do anything at any time.
Yeah, but it cost you a timeout.
Yeah, but in many ways, it's throwing the flag is kind of circumventing the rules because the rule is that's supposed to come from the sky judge or the people that are going to review all turnovers. So if you're going to allow people to throw flags, what you're basically saying is you can challenge. Because even if you do waste a timeout, you can do what Antonio Pierce did yesterday, which is save enough time to where, he threw the flag. What's he throwing the flag for? He's saying that maybe that he was touched down. Let's go take a look. Had he not thrown the flag, that would have never happened. So for Antonio Pierce, it might benefit you to throw the flag and maybe cost yourself a timeout just so you can get the call correct. If you don't decide that we're not going to take away any timeouts, then there's no stopping any coach from just throwing the flag after a controversial play like that, hoping that maybe
they'll
just
find
the time
something.
alone
in those 20 seconds.
Yes,
They'll
will allow
find
them to say, well, maybe
something.
it's something we should be looking at.
But it
which you
costs you a
shouldn't-
timeout.
shouldn't be
Right.
doing.
That's the penalty.
I know he's
That's
saying
the penalty.
if there's no penalty,
Then you'll do it every time.
coaches will just do it willy-nilly.
But if they don't find a penalty, it's a timeout. That's why. So if you lose a challenge, you lose a timeout. That's the penalty. That's the penalty on any challenge.
Right, but the
so it's the
argument
same
would be-
penalty. That's enough of a penalty to keep coaches from doing that. Why would you waste a timeout on just a
Because they
a
say
random
20
guess?
yards. They say 20 yards yesterday. Like, that's why you would do it. Because you say, you know what, it's the first half, and, Whitehead didn't run. He got touched down early. Let me just throw the flag and say, you guys weren't going to look at it, so I'll waste the timeout for you guys to actually look at it and see that he was touched down.
Did you just switch in the middle?
No, I'm saying
you were saying there shouldn't be a penalty.
No
You're explaining to you why. I understand there's a penalty for it.
You guys
yes.
know when you throw a red flag, you're risking losing time. But there's a penalty when you lose a challenge. So if you just randomly throw a red flag on a big play, you could lose a timeout. Why would people
it's
not do
random,
that?
though.
But
Like,
That's what bogus is saying.
Weren't you just advocating 5 seconds ago? You should be able to challenge anything with no penalty.
No. You should be that particular penalty. When you challenge a play that's unchallengeable, you should not lose a timeout for that. They should just pick up the red flag and say, no problem.
You made a mistake.
You made a mistake. Because I think the general rule, basically, you're not going to review the play. You're not going to further review the play, so just pick up the red flag. I think generally, no coach is throwing a red flag on any big interception because that costs them a timeout.
Wait, hold on. We have now spent close to 8 minutes. This is longer than any drive that the Jets put together last night in that whole game. We've got to move on.
I've argued 8 point
Your mic's not working now. This is the football gods telling us to move on from this topic.
EJ, I think we need Gene Steratore on the phone.
No. Gene, we love Gene. Gene and the Weedos have a battle, an epic battle.
By the way, in May, when they reverse this rule, I'm going to laugh at all you guys.
Okay.
They're not.
We'll give you full credit if they do that.
I'll drive to San Antonio if they do.
Right alongside you.
Your headlines are sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Progressive Insurance, insurance for motorcycles, boats, and RVs for protection on the road and on the water. See how much you can save at 1-800-PROGRESSIVE and Progressive.com. Don't say this often, but what a Sunday for kickers. Not 1 or 2, but 5 game-winning field goals as time expired. The most game-winning scores of any kind with zeros on the clock on a single day in NFL history. 3 of them came in the late window. 1 of them made for a happy return in Arizona.
The snap's good. The ball's down. The kick is up. And the kick is good. And the Cardinals win it. 25-23. Welcome back, Kyler.
Dave Pasch on Cards Radio. Happy to see Kyler Murray back under center for the Cardinals. He threw for 249 yards, ran for a score, also scrambled forever to convert a 3rd down on that winning drive.
Feel good. Just happy to win. Out of all of that, that's all I was worried about was winning.
This was Kyler's first game since late last season, thanks to that torn ACL. Matt Prater's 23-yard kick gave Arizona a 25-23 win, negating Desmond Ritter's go-ahead TD run with 2:33 left. Ritter was back in because Taylor Heineke hurt his hamstring earlier in the 4th. Riley Patterson's 41-yard kick gave the Lions a 41-38 win at the Chargers. Jason Myers was good from 29 at the buzzer in Seattle. Seahawks 29, the Commanders 26. The Browns stole a 33-31 win in Baltimore and a Dustin Hopkins 40-yarder. And those Texans won in Cincinnati 30-27 on a 38-yard kick from Matt Amendola. Greg Zuerlein, 4 field goals. Some of those should have been touchdowns, though, so the Jets lost in Vegas on Sunday Night Football 16-12. The Raiders now 2-0 under Antonio Pierce. Josh Dobbs is 2 for 2 as the Vikings QB. They held off the Saints yesterday 27-19. Derek Carr suffered a shoulder injury, possible concussion in that one. And the Cowboys destroyed the Giants 49-17 in Dallas with Dak accounting for 5 touchdowns.
Obviously, we wanted to handle them for the second time this season, and just happened to be in that manner with that many points, and the defense playing as well as they did.
This sentence is not an exaggeration. The Cowboys won their 2 meetings by 72 combined points, their largest season sweep of an NFC East team ever. Texas A&M finally fired Jimbo Fisher yesterday. The Aggies actually won Saturday, but the decision was apparently made Thursday, but they didn't think firing him that close to a game was smart. Neither is owing him $76 million to not coach them. The NBA busy last night. Nikola Jokic, 36 points, 21 boards, 11 assists, but his Nuggets lost in Houston, 107-104. That's 6 in a row for the Rockets. Kyrie had 35, and the Mavs 136-124 win in New Orleans, and the Lakers topped the Blazers 116-110 without LeBron. who has a bruised calf. Anthony Davis, 30 points and 13 boards. On ice, our Sharks lost in Anaheim 4-1, and the Columbus, they can't win them all, or that many at all.
Yeah.
The Columbus Crew ran away from Atlanta United 4-2 to take their third and decisive game. The Crew now face Orlando City in a one-game Eastern Conference semifinal. Guys, back to you.
Andrew Bogusch, thank you so much. Coming up, the coach that was moved to tears this weekend. We'll get to that. Don't move. Maggie and Perloff, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. 15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Receivers split to the left. JJ takes the snap. They go inside. Handoff. Donovan Edwards breaks a tackle. 20, 15, 10. Donovan Edwards. Touchdown, Wolverines.
Strike three for all of us. We'll take the touchdown.
We'll take the home run call from Sharon Moore.
Man.
Let's go.
Learfield Sports with the call there. Yeah, it wasn't an offensive juggernaut of a game. We knew that was going to happen, but Michigan does prevail in Happy Valley, Perloff, and it was not without 15 more bizarre things. Let's get to our maze and clue.
I got a one-track mind. I'm not going to be speculating. Can let others speculate that.
It's time for Maze and Clue.
Yeah, no Connor Stallions in this edition, but we do have the 11th hour. First, a suspension that came down Friday after the show, where Jim Harbaugh, now you probably know, cannot be on the sidelines, couldn't be there for Penn State, not for Maryland, and not for Ohio State. He's essentially suspended from being on the sidelines for the rest of the season. However, he can coach during the week. He can be there to install game plans and all of that stuff. So Sharon Moore takes over as head coach. He was one of the 3 coaches who got to take a spin as Michigan head coach for Jim Harbaugh's first suspension that he served earlier this season. That was a self-imposed ban for recruiting violations. At the very last minute, Michigan tried to get a temporary restraining order to block the suspension, but they could not do it because the courts were closed because it's Veterans Day. So essentially the Big Ten, Michigan, in a statement, kind of subtly, not so subtly, accused the Big Ten of being anti-military by saying that this came down on the last minute and they couldn't do anything because of Veterans Day. Sort of a little bit of a backhand.
I didn't even know that detail. I was just wondering, what's a judge going to do in this case? How do 2 lawyers are going to sit there and argue about Connor Stallions? Is that how this is going to work?
Hell yeah. And that's just the beginning. There's going to be lawyers all over this thing. So anyway, Michigan, yada, yada, yada. Michigan wins the game. At one point, ran the ball 34 times in a row. They win the game at Penn State. And here was interim coach Sharon Moore postgame.
I want to thank the Lord. I want to thank Coach Harbaugh. Love you, man. Love you, man. This is for you. For this university, the president, our AD. We got the best players, best university, best alumni in the country. Love you guys. These guys right here. These guys right here, man. These guys did it. These guys did it, man. Talk to him, man.
Wow.
Thank you, Fox Sports. Clearly, everyone feeling a little pressure.
Wow.
And a catharsis after they win that game.
Well, which is actually, when you think about it, kind of stupid because that game doesn't even matter. They have to beat Ohio State to get in the playoffs, and the game's only 12 days away. Makes me wonder, is there enough time to work all this out on the courts? Probably not going to have Harbaugh on the sideline for that.
I think they will. I think this is enough time to get the temporary restraining order. I think this is going to end up being... listen, it's not lost on me that the Big Ten commissioner who handed down this wonky sort of half measure, meet in the middle, weird suspension has been a television executive his entire career. This guy's been Tony Petitti's been an excellent television executive going back to the 80s. He knows what he's doing here. I think that not that you need extra mojo on Ohio State, Michigan, but...
Wait, so you're saying this was all a TV plot to suspend him just so he can dramatically get back in, like a pro wrestling plot?
I think listen, Ric Flair's already made one appearance in this bizarre story. I think it's made it even more compelling as opposed to just saying, oh, you're suspended one game and then we're going to let it go.
So if he was thinking about the TV ratings, wouldn't he want Harbaugh on the sideline?
I think he's going to get Harbaugh on the sideline. I think the judge is going to put the restraining order in.
So wait. So Tony Petitti does want Harbaugh on the sideline and therefore suspended him indefinitely?
Dramatic. It's like
He's not Vince McMahon, Maggie.
But isn't he, though? I mean, he's closer to Vince McMahon than he is to, some kind of bureaucratic suit.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting game, too. I think Michigan on the field, that blueprint, that'll work against Ohio State. They're, I think, 6-point favorites right now. I think they quieted the scandal by 37% by winning that game. Am I totally wrong?
Absolutely not.
No. And also,
I mean, if they had lost that game, then it would have been big problem.
Well, the over the top, there was a moment where they actually could have turned Harbaugh and Michigan into a sympathetic figure. I thought they did for maybe a couple hours on Friday because it's a weird type of suspension. But now, I mean, Michigan, the rhetoric, basically it sounds like Harbaugh's being persecuted here. It's like, you still broke a rule. You broke the rules. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Coming up, which is a bad sign for one contender. Got it.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's the reigning Fortnite champion. She's a Call of Duty legend. They are Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio.
Dominant win for the Dallas Cowboys over the New York Giants. Welcome to the show, Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff, CBS Sports Radio. This is not so much about the X's and O's of what we saw, though CeeDee Lamb was excellent yesterday. Everyone on the Dallas Cowboys offense was excellent yesterday. They were just toying with the New York Giants. This was a name your number kind of a game, Perloff. And I think the question is, we both noticed this, and we're surprised.
Yeah.
That they were throwing, the Cowboys that is, so late in this game. When this thing was completely out of reach, it was like not only were they there to win this game, they were there to pad stats, embarrass the Giants, and just really make a statement. Was it in poor sportsmanship?
No. That didn't bother me. Honestly, after all, I think Dak Prescott is the most unfairly criticized quarterback in the NFL. Let him feed a little bit, get 400 yards, 4 touchdowns. I don't mind the Cowboys doing that at all. That did not bother me because they did eventually take him out. That gives them cover. They put Cooper Rush in the game. It didn't strike me as so egregious that you should call the Cowboys out on that. I didn't really mind. And the fact that the Giants are not taking the NFL game seriously by playing Tommy DeVito, they don't deserve any sympathy at all. They're full-on process tanking.
Okay,
they should have a veteran in there, not Tommy DeVito.
Well, but I mean, who?
They should have signed. I mean, they should have already signed somebody and had them incorporated, like a Josh Dobbs.
They did sign Matt Barkley.
Yeah, they Matt Barkley. I mean,
there's a bunch. They could have brought in Carson Wentz. They could have done a million things here. They've missed opportunities. They are quietly full on tanking harder than anyone in the NFL right now. So they deserve no sympathy.
Well, now they should be tanking because once you go from Daniel Jones to Tyrod Taylor back to Daniel Jones, he gets hurt and tears an ACL, and now it's to Tommy DeVito. Like now at this point, you're smarter off to tank than you would be to try to salvage the season. Meanwhile, you might have an implosion on the sideline though. How many in-game conversation / I don't know what you want to call it. You had Brian Daboll, Wink Martindale getting into it. The coach and defensive coordinator animated. You had Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton getting into it.
Saquon Barkley apparently also had an incident with Daboll on the sidelines as well.
Thank you. I mean, they're all tearing each other apart limb from limb. If they are supposed to be tanking, someone didn't get the memo down to the sideline. I don't think it's professional football. I was just surprised, and I definitely noticed it, that the Cowboys were trying to not just win this game, they were definitely trying to embarrass the Giants. The Giants, they cannot win. Like, there's no chance they can win a game with Tommy DeVito at quarterback and what they're doing. I don't think the Cowboys needed to make that as clear as it was.
Yeah, I guess so. In an NFL game, you really can't pull your quarterback until the very end, just because we've seen miracles. Not that the Giants were about to pull off that miracle.
There's no way he could have put a miracle here. There's nothing was going to happen.
I think the only thing maybe you could say with the decision to keep Dak up until and Tommy and Rush came in pretty much to start the fourth quarter is once you kind of see the Giants have no chance of scoring on offense, at what point are you just risking injury to have Dak Prescott dropping back, throwing the ball in the third quarter? I don't have much of a problem with it as long as you're willing to take the risk that if he gets hurt, well, that's on you. You could have pulled him earlier.
And Dak was still running at some points late in the game. It was like, why are you running? Do not get out into the open field. I guess your instincts kind of take over. It wasn't open field. It was like running more towards the sidelines and stuff. But I know you have instincts and you want to keep playing, but I was surprised.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Against the Giants, you don't need that. You're not risking that much when you drop back. Because first of all, you're going to score a touchdown in like 2 minutes.
I mean,
Dak Prescott's most vicious injury of his career came courtesy of the Giants.
Yeah,
and a close game though, right?
Logan Ryan,
right? And we also saw 2 quarterbacks this year get out for the season, both in New York, in non-contact injuries. So we say, well, there's not much of a risk. Well, anytime you drop back and anytime you make any kind of movements back there, clearly we've seen with plenty of other quarterbacks in the NFL that there is a risk for keeping them out there.
So Perloff, you didn't have a problem with that sportsmanship situation, but you did have a problem with another thing we saw yesterday.
Yeah, I didn't totally understand the feeding Christian McCaffrey to get this meaningless touchdown record. Christian McCaffrey was about to score a touchdown and set the record, right, for most consecutive games with a touchdown against the Jaguars. He's scored in 17 straight games. So the Niners clearly got down at the end of the game. They kept McCaffrey in the game, and they ran 3 plays to him. Then they tried a screen pass to him. Everyone in the stadium knew exactly what was happening. So the Jags knew what was happening. It was pretty easy to stop him. When you know exactly what play is coming, Michigan style, it's easy to stop him, especially the screen pass at the end. The Jags knew exactly where the ball was going. But I'm not quite sure. If you guys are upset about Dak Prescott playing 3/4 of the game against the Giants, why are you having your best player, your injury-prone running back, running 4 plays where the defense is hunting him at the end to get, in my mind, a somewhat meaningless record? That record doesn't really blow me away.
No, I get it. I'm with you on this one. I guess maybe you give him 1 or 2 tries, but to try to force feed it with all 4, you're right. I mean, McCaffrey is so important. As we're learning now, Deebo Samuel and Trent Williams might be the most important aspects of the 49ers. And obviously, the defense was swarming yesterday. Steve Wilkes on the sideline looks like it was a good move, if that even really did anything. The fact they added Chase Young, this is the second year in a row where the 49ers meaningfully add at the trade deadline, and it looks like it's going to pay off, where they added strength on strength. Yeah, to get McCaffrey, the record feels a little bit like, haha, we're killing you here, and now we're just going to try to go for style points.
Yeah, no, if I was a Jags defender, I would have taken a cheap shot. I'm sorry, I don't want to be a cheap shot guy, but that was clearly, we just got blown out, and now you're adding insult to injury. It's a minor thing. It's not a huge deal. And I don't think the Cowboys playing Dak for 3/4 is a huge deal either.
No, but it was like it's not about the Cowboys were playing him. To me, it was that they kept throwing.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Dak's got to get in the MVP race.
I mean, no. He's going to be MVP off of 2 games against the Giants.
To me, though, if the Cowboys are worried about Dak throwing for 400 yards and the 49ers worry about whether or not McCaffrey gets a stupid record when you're up 30 points against a division leader, that does speak to a little lack of focus to me. Like the 49ers, you have much bigger goals. I mean, you've been on the doorstep of winning a championship for now, like 3 out of the last 4 years. Like, you should have much bigger goals than whether or not McCaffrey gets a stupid record. And for the Cowboys, again, another team where you've already beaten the Giants by 40 points, and Dak Prescott's already had huge games against the Giants. Like, you should be beyond worried about whether or not Dak Prescott can pad his stats enough to where he can get back into the MVP race. Like, if that is the motivation,
it's
that
the wrong motivation. The only thing for McCaffrey, and I didn't see this anywhere, would be, does he have some kind of crazy bonus if he breaks this record? I can't imagine what agent in the world could have foreseen this and tried to write it into the language of his contract. But if he gets like $1 million or something for breaking this record, I guess the organization's trying to do right by him to try to get him that bonus. But I have not seen that anywhere.
Yeah, I mean,
he's already pretty rich, dude.
One thing about Dak, by the way, there were basically the second half had just started. There were 5 minutes left in the third quarter when his last drive started. He didn't do this in the fourth quarter. Yeah, he was throwing, but
like bombs.
Yeah,
they were like bombs away throwing.
But halfway through the third quarter, that's pretty early to start judging a team for running the score up.
They were up like 42-7.
I've hated this segment so far.
Man, he's a poor Giants fan. It's all right. You're going to end up with a top pick. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. James is in Modesto. James, we were just talking about you this morning. How do those Raiders feel to you?
Well, they're wearing me out, you know. I got a long week ahead of me. I hate these late games, you know, because I start my week at 2 in the morning and I go till Saturday at 5 p.m. So I don't get much rest.
Wow.
You know, so these guys are wearing me out, man. But it's a game we kind of expected, you know, because this is a different defense. So we knew we were going in for a tough one. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, we're only favored by 1 point. So, you know, in the books of the tell, you know, we were actually underdog by 2. Everybody and their brother was taking the, you know, the Jets. But we pulled it out. That's all we got to do. But what scares me is, you know, they were saying they were going to bring in AOC and they were going to bomb us away. You know, he had the better arm and everything. And like Perloff was saying, you know, that, you know, AOC, you know, is he the right guy to go with or Garoppolo, you know? I mean, because we got some tough games coming up.
Yep.
And, you know, it's scaring me. Pierce has got his work cut out for him. You know, he's got to learn to, you know, just keep the hammer down and keep going, you know. But this Dolphin game coming up, it's going to be a different breed here.
Well, James, that'd be the real moment. I mean, and thank you for the call. And man, these late games, he's right. Late game, close game. If you got anything to do the next day, you're totally shot. But Antonio Pierce is telling you, I mean, Aiden O'Connell airing it out. They're going to run. That's the formula.
O'Connell can hurt you, though, because he took a couple sacks that a veteran would have gotten rid of the ball. He missed Adams on one little screenplay that I think Jimmy G would have dropped it right in there. Yeah, I'm worried about the Raiders. What are they, 5-5 now?
Yep.
How many wins? It could easily be 2 more wins for Pierce. It's
Miami, KC, then Minnesota, Chargers, at KC, at Indy, Denver.
That's tough.
There's more. There's a couple wins on here. You're home. You got Minnesota at home.
We love Minnesota.
I do love Minnesota.
Yeah.
That may be one of the great stories now is Josh Dobbs going to leave the Vikings to a playoff berth. It looks more and more likely. Let us ponder that. Let's get to a new segment we're calling Bad Game or Bad Sign. All right, what's going to happen here is EJ's going to throw out a loser from yesterday. We'll tell you, was it just a bad game or is it actually a sign of some bad things wrong with this team? EJ, go ahead.
Okay, so let's start with the Ravens, who at home blew a late lead to the Cleveland Browns, losing 33-31. Bad game or bad sign?
Bad sign to me. And Ravens are awesome, but a couple things that's a bad sign. You cannot have that kind of a lead and then blow it to a team where this has become such an important game for you, right? Like, you cannot afford to waste this kind of opportunity. And now the Browns are a half game behind the Ravens in this super tight AFC North. Also, Perloff, some more injuries, unfortunately, for the Ravens. Left tackle Ronnie Stanley, and also Marlon Humphrey leaves the game.
Well, yeah, I mean, Humphrey's been hurt pretty much the last couple of years, and Stanley's been hurt the last couple of years. That's why I agree. Bad sign, because the Ravens cannot stay healthy. And I said it earlier in the year, it feels like we've seen this Ravens movie. This is, I think, the 3rd or 4th straight year they've been 7-3, that exact same record. Then they get major injuries coming down the pike. I wouldn't bet on them for the Super Bowl. I just don't think they're going to be healthy enough to come out of this AFC. They're going to have to beat the Chiefs at some point. And the Ravens team we saw yesterday cannot do that.
Can I give you one stat here I thought was amazing? The Cleveland Browns trailed for 59 minutes and 20 seconds in this game and won. That's nuts.
Speaks to just how much the Ravens really coughed that one up. I mean, they were dominating that game. Even Odell Beckham scored, and it looked like all was well, and they were going to be on their way to another blowout. And then here come Deshaun Watson and the Brownies.
How about that?
Who would have expected that?
Good second half for Deshaun.
They were sort of dominating, but the officials were certainly helping them out. Either the Browns got a million penalties, or they deserve, but some of them seem kind of ticky-tacky. Apparently on Twitter, I found out the Ravens always get calls, according to. But I think I have a lot of Brown fans who follow me. There were a couple calls that kept the Ravens lead. Did you feel watching that game that the Browns had a lot of momentum the entire second half? It looked like the better team on the field for sure.
On the second half, no doubt. All right, who's next?
Okay, let's go to another AFC North team that lost a tough one at home. Bengals losing to the Texans 30-27. Bad game or bad sign?
Bad sign. This is not the year for the Bengals. it's just not all coming together. They can't get the three key players here, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Joe Burrow, healthy and on the field at the same time, and it's going to cost them. So earlier in the season, Joe Burrow was hurt. Then they lost Chase for a game. Last night, that game came down to yesterday, T. Higgins not being on the field for them. 5-4 in this conference is going to be too tough. Now, I'm breaking a cardinal rule betting against Joe Burrow. I just don't think this is the health year for them. I'm sorry.
Uncharacteristic. I'm still going with this is just a bad game for them because I do think T. Higgins is going to come back. And this happens a lot with the Bengals. I think we have to expect this now. They're going to drop some games that are uncharacteristic of them. They had just won 4 in a row. I think if Higgins is playing, it's a different story. I know they've lost some depth on the offensive line, but I trust Lou Anarumo, defensive coordinator, and ultimately I trust Burrow. I do think they're going to bounce back from
But
it.
look at this schedule. I know they won at San Francisco, but they have road games at Baltimore, at Jacksonville, at Pittsburgh, at Kansas City. And the way the AFC is shaping up, 5-4, you're already behind the 8 ball. It's going to be the best non-playoff team in the league.
Who's next, DJ?
Okay, and finally, let's go to the AFC South where the Jaguars were absolutely throttled at home 34-33 to the 49ers. 34-3 to the 49ers. So, Jaguars, bad game or bad sign?
Oh, bad sign. And this is my pick to go to the Super Bowl from the AFC, so I'm feeling a little type of way about that. This offense, and there's still time to fix it, I suppose, Perloff, but this offense did get a lot better from last year, and I'm kind of surprised. I was expecting that this would be linear, and with Doug Peterson in his second year and Trevor Lawrence now in his third year, that all of this would just keep getting better and better, and it really hasn't.
So they could get a lot of wins, though, for this division and get a really good seed. Does that give you any hope for your Super Bowl pick?
Well, no, because I think the Houston Texans are really coming on here, and oh, by the way, the Colts are 5-5. I don't know how that's happening, but the Colts are also 5-5. They beat up on the Patriots yesterday, or beat up, whatever. They won a really close game in Germany. I don't think this AFC South is a given. Now
they already beat the Colts twice. I don't think the Colts are a threat. The Texans are a threat. Texans beat them pretty handily earlier in the season. Teams like that tend to split. I still think they win the division. I don't know if they get the 1 seed, then maybe you have a shot.
Well, that was the whole thought process behind me picking them to go to the Super Bowl. I thought they'd be the 1 seed.
I think one thing to note, even if they can or cannot get this 1 seed, this team is 6-3. They're 2-3 at home.
Weird.
So they have not played well at home. They've taken some ugly losses at home. This one to the Niners earlier in the season, to the Texans. So maybe it's great if the Jaguars don't get home field and maybe they have to go on the road. I don't know what's going on.
Don't forget, one of those home wins is in Europe.
Right, exactly.
They did back-to-back games there.
I think they're good against bad teams. That's the thing this Jags team is. And they have a lot of bad teams. This Texans game, November 26th. Let's go to that game. This is a huge showdown. I think it's Thanksgiving weekend. It's a bit of a problem.
Who needs family? They'll understand. Like, guys, we got this really big Texans-Jags game we must go to. Just send me a photo. Tell me how Thanksgiving went. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. I was about to say, in fact, I wouldn't mind going to this game, and we can get more into this later or never again and forget I ever mentioned it. One thing no one ever tells you about having kids is how impossible it is to stay with them in hotel rooms. Why didn't you ever warn me about this, Perloff?
I actually heard you talking about this. I kind of like it.
Oh, no, it's not about like or not like. It's the novelty of a 4-year-old being in the hotel, first of all, which is like amazing for them. They might as well be in a snow globe. And then sleeping in the same room as your kid. I had this weekend, and you guys know, okay, I did the show from the hotel on Friday, but I'm opening up my eyes, and my kid's just like 2 inches from my face, like, Mommy, let's go to the pool.
So there's one thing that's
3
different.
in the morning.
One thing that's slightly different. My kids were always terrified. So they actually slept through
Terrified of what?
The dark.
I was say room service showing up? Like, what are they terrified of?
No, they were basically, when my kids were young, I'd have to go every 2 hours, leave my cozy bed and go in and comfort them.
Oh, wow.
And when we sleep in the same room, they're just totally confident that the boogeyman's not going to get them, and they sleep through the night.
Wait, these are the same kids who now love horror movies?
No, the the older one loves horror movies. The younger one, I saw a horror movie this weekend with my older daughter. The younger daughter heard about the plot from when we got home and did not sleep for the entire 2 nights. By the way, I was up all Saturday night, and I told her, I'm like, just sleep in the bed with us, even though you're 11 years old, because this is getting so annoying. And I get it, too. I wasn't sleeping either.
You actually watched the movie.
Yeah. I kind of wanted, I'm like, let's get as many bodies in this room as possible because this is terrifying.
Your 13-year-old slept like an angel.
I woke up at 2 o'clock this morning, and I heard a bang downstairs. I was pretty sure that it was an animatronic killer in our house.
That was the plot of the movie?
That was the plot of the movie. And I don't know if the actual logistics of that happening, but at 2 o'clock in the morning this morning, I thought that was about to go down.
Well, you said you saw 2 weekends. It was a horror movie and a documentary, and one was animatronic people coming to life and killing people. I was like, oh, that was the documentary. You're like, no, that was the horror movie. You can't tell these days.
Yeah, I don't want to give away the plot too much. Five Nights at Freddy's, big hit. People told me I wouldn't be scared, and I wasn't scared in the theater, but last night I was scared. So basically, yeah, I like having the kid in the bed. You know, you want as much insurance as you can.
You have meat shield just in case people to offer up as sacrifice.
It's harder to slaughter 3 people. Yeah, unfortunately, it's so terrible. As a kid, I was a nervous sleeper. I would wake up if there was a bump in the house. I would be out of my bed with a baseball bat ready to go.
It seems like you passed this on to the next generation. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Well, another horror show happened to one NFL team. What's going to be the long-term implication? We'll tell you next. Don't move. Maggie and Perloff, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
So 4th and 1 converts for the Patriots. The clock is moving on them, though. They're out of timeouts. And Zappi fakes. He fakes a clocking of the ball. He fires it upfield. Picked off by the Colts. Intercepted by Rodney Thomas.
All right, today's Monday Night Football preview is sponsored by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Big one tonight, Maggie. How you feeling? Your Bills.
Well,
huge game because of the playoff scenarios in the AFC.
And you just heard the highlight there on, what was that, Colts radio. Because the Patriots, well, they lose again. Jets lost. Cincinnati Bengals lost. Baltimore Ravens lost. Who else lost? The Chargers lost. I mean, you had a lot of teams.
I'm not sure the Patriots losing plays into this.
The Patriots already beat the Bills once this year. So there's just an opportunity here for Buffalo, and I have no idea if they can take advantage of it. No clue. They tend to play down to their competition. I could see that happening tonight. They could come out blazing. I have no idea what to expect from this team now week to week.
I was watching CBS. Nate Burleson strongly picked the Broncos tonight. There's some momentum for the Broncos, but every time the Broncos as a franchise has momentum, they blow it. I agree with what you said. This is hard to see how this works out.
No clue.
It seems like a great spot for the Bills because how are the Broncos really going to get to it? Russell Wilson can't move like he used to. And you know Josh Allen's in desperation mode. He's going to run for every first down.
It doesn't matter. It's not, for the Bills at least. I'm not talking about the Broncos.
Yeah.
For the Bills, it doesn't matter who's on the other side. They could lose to Buffalo Central High School if the conditions warrant. It has nothing to do with who's on the other side. It's all about the type of game they play. But yeah, you'd think they should be able to get to Russ a few times in this game. The pass rush, that is.
Okay, we tripped onto an interesting topic in the last segment. What is scarier to you, Maggie? Living in the suburbs, as you do.
Yeah.
Or you've lived in the city at times in an apartment building. To me, the scariest movies are when a stranger knocks at your door in the middle of the night, like the movie The Strangers, or I think Nope was that plot. When you have strange people outside your house in the middle of the night in the suburbs, to me, that is the scariest thing that can happen. Not even close.
Yeah, suburbs are kind of scary. It's kind of dark where I live.
Yeah, I see pictures of your house. Not to give anyone the ideas, but it's out in the middle of nowhere. Nobody would hear you screaming.
Nope, nobody would hear us screaming. Although the city is also scary because I've been followed home. That's not awesome
that's
when
not
you're
good.
in especially in New York City. That was a scary one that stayed with me for a little bit. I think if you're prone to be scared, they're both scary.
No, I think the actual chance of danger is greater in the city, but it's scarier to get in trouble in the suburbs because you're out in the middle of nowhere. And I think it's easy to break into a suburban house. All you do is break a window and you're in.
Again,
You
stop
can't
giving
get it.
people ideas.
You can't get into my apartment. You have to blow this metal door off its hinges to get into my house. There's no windows. No one's climbing up to the 8th floor.
No, the thing I'd be worried about most in the city is like rodent, like some
Yeah.
kind of animal life getting in.
Yeah, I don't know what's safer. It's just the terror of the unknown in the suburbs has always bothered me.
Well,
or the country's even worse. The country is where people go to die.
The one thing, yikes. The one thing that I find especially scary now is driving to work so early. I'm on some like back roads before I get to the highway, some dark roads. I'm like, if somebody's pulled over on the side, if they're broken down on the side of the road, if someone flags me down because they need help, what do I do?
You keep going. What are you, crazy?
Pedal to the metal, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you swerve off and hit them just to be safe.
Oh, no.
No, I'm just kidding. That is terrible. But yeah, you do not stop. You're a woman. You can't stop in the dark road.
I think that's my cover. Like, good Samaritan, though. Like, you want to be a helpful neighbor. I'm from upstate New York. Like, I'm from upstate where people help people, where people have snow plows and help other people out and, lend a helping hand.
Again, another advantage of living in the city. You don't have these awkward side of the road situations.
No.
DJ, you're a city kid. What?
Yeah. So I think for me, my experience kind of, informs how I feel because I grew up in New York City for most of my life, but then I spent 5 or 6 years living in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. And for me, that was a big adjustment because at nighttime, it is pitch black.
Yep.
Yeah.
So dark.
I lived near cornfields and I lived near, not too many people. It was a housing development, but there's really not out there. And it's so quiet, which again, something I had to get used to after growing up in New York City. That was scary. And then I lived in the basement too. So that was adding a second thing. So
nothing good ever happens in the basement.
Right. So not only am I living, in the suburbs with pitch black, no sound at night, I'm also living in the basement. So I'm thinking anything that could happen to me will happen to me for those 4 or 5 years I was in Lehigh Valley.
Anything ever happen? You ever get broken into her?
No, the scariest thing that happened, honestly, was what was it? I guess it was a bird. So when you live in a basement, there's like that little window that looks out or whatever. So at a certain point, a bird flew into that little crevice and it couldn't get out. So outside of my window, I kept seeing this bird that was stuck, and it kept banging on the basement window and banging on top of the ceiling where it couldn't get out. And you want to talk about scary? Like, what do? Do you go there and approach this bird who may then go attack you because it's nervous, or do you just let it be and not let it be? And that was rough because you're sleeping at night, all of a sudden you hear bang, bang, bang. You're like, oh my God, what was that? And you realize it's that bird that got stuck again.
What was the ending for the bird?
Didn't end well. Let's say that.
Oh boy.
What happened? He just died of old age, or starved to death?
I believe so. I never went to check on it. So.
Wow. Do you guys ever use glue traps and have a rat or a mouse stuck on that glue trap?
Everyone.
Yeah.
I can't do it. I will never put out a glue trap because that situation where a live animal stuck is the worst thing that can happen. I can't do it.
I mean, and I thought talking about the Patriots was going to be really bad. This is taking it to a whole new level to talk about human suffering and animal suffering. I mean, watching the Patriots was a suffering of a different kind. Do you mind if I transition off this topic?
Are you a little scared of a rat stuck on a glue trap coming to get you in the middle of the night?
No. I grew up in a rural place, so we sometimes would have like mice or something in the basement or whatever. And yeah, they get stuck on the glue trap and it's awful. But I don't want them to get also chomped in a... that's terrible.
Those are not good. Yeah.
In a regular trap.
What do you want to rehabilitate them? And
you're supposed to drop
make them part
off
of the family
a mile away from the house.
But then picking them up, you have to carry them. That is.
I would never. I
bet you our audience is way tougher
than us. Putting them in a
us.
shoebox, even that, and you got to drive it, and you hear it while you're driving. I've been part of those incidents. It's terrible.
Can we all agree the audience is way tougher than we are? Just
I think we've acknowledged that.
Yeah, I'm soft.
We've acknowledged that many, many times. We're not. There's no heroes on this show. We're not.
There's a reason.
No martyrs here.
Yeah, there's a reason that we're doing sports talk radio and we're not firemen. We're not tough.
No.
We're not tough dudes here.
We would not be able to handle even the first day on the job. Andrew Bogusch is here with headlines.
Used to be a fireman. It was too.
You were a fireman?
It was too boring. So I switched to radio. Of
Yeah,
course
right.
not.
I was like, wait a minute, what?
He said that so convincingly.
I'm also an
Bogus.
actor
Maybe
and
there's-
scene.
Maybe a volunteer fireman? I could see that.
Not even a little bit. I would be denied.
Well, I feel like firemen, there is one of those jobs where, like, you could have done it for, like, a year and be like, yeah, this isn't for me. So, Bogus, when he said that, I was like, oh, I mean, I know firemen who tried it, didn't like it, and then we moved on to something else.
Thought we were talking about Halloween costumes here.
Yeah,
for a
thank
second.
you. Manny knew it. I thought Bogus was flying into forest fires. I'm surprised. You kind of
You
seem
want me
like
to
the
fight him
fireman.
from the air? No. The ground's bad enough.
I was going to say, man, if Bogus really was a former firefighter, I'm like, why aren't you like the team leader during our fire drills and stuff? That would be like a no-brainer for you. You have no leadership responsibilities here whatsoever.
We do fire drills here?
Don't you get the emails?
That never
We're in-
explained that we're like, do we leave? Do we just abandon the radio? I'm thankfully they're never happening when I'm in the building.
Same.
When I was at my other employment and the fire alarms were going off and I had no idea what to do.
Oh, I
Better
when
stay
I
on
worked,
the air, Manny.
When I worked at New York One, there was a full-blown fire right outside of our floor at Chelsea Market, and for a while, people didn't leave. Like, we saw the smoke and the flames, and we were on the air live.
You saw the flames?
Oh, we saw flames. So, first of all, it got super hot. We were like, why is it hot? Then we saw smoke, and we're like, oh, that doesn't look good.
Why am I melting?
You got a lot of sharp people
But you
working
know
over
what,
here.
though, that
Going,
fire alarm-
it's hot. And I see smoke. What could this possibly be?
But the fire alarm went off often when we worked throughout New York One, and
Yeah.
you would just work through it. And there was that
People
instinct.
sneaking cigarettes in the hallway.
There was the instinct initially to be like, well, maybe we should just work through this, and maybe it's not that serious. Until like then we saw flames shooting out of the window, and we were like, oh, we have to leave, and we kind of had to drag our anchor off the set, be like, no, we're stopping right now, regardless of what's happening on the air.
Can't you just hit a button that goes to some kind of programming, like taped?
You do, but that became a whole situation because now you got to get your ducks in a row for that. It was not a fun day. Let's just say Pat Kiernan was doing updates from the park across the street in the next hour.
I could see Pat just going down with the ship.
Yeah.
Refusing to leave.
When news organizations become the story is always fun. Bogish, what do you got for us?
Well, life will definitely get tougher now that the Raiders are done with New York's crappy football teams. But for now, they are 2-0 with Antonio Pierce at head coach and Aiden O'Connell at QB.
Definitely not a super clean performance from us. But, you know, it's really hard to win in the National Football League, as I'm learning. And, you know, I think it's just really proud of our guys, our defense, special teams, did an awesome job keeping us in the game for a while. And then, you know, a lot of guys on offense stepped up to make plays when they needed to.
O'Connell and his creepy mustache threw for the decisive points, a 7-yard connection to tight end Michael Mayer early in the fourth quarter. That was after the defense and some penalties made the Jets settle for 3 field goals and before linebacker Robert Spillane picked off Zach Wilson at the Vegas 15 with 1:14 left. The Raiders a 16-12 primetime win. Those Jets dropped to 4-5, but apparently Aaron Rodgers thinks he can come to the rescue a month from now. Christian McCaffrey's TD streak aside, the Niners took care of business in Jacksonville yesterday afternoon, 34-3. Kyle Shanahan relieved to end that 3-game slide.
I didn't think we played perfect ball by any means. I thought, which you never do, but I was just happy that the mistakes that we did make, we always overcame.
Brock Purdy threw for 3 scores, while Trevor Lawrence committed 3 turnovers and was sacked 5 times. The Giants gave up 28 first-half points, 49 total in yesterday's loss in Dallas.
Yeah, they did give those guys credit. They did a better job than we did.
Brian Dable downright chipper after the 49-17 shaming. His team is now 2-8. They would pick second in the next draft.
Also, I'm sorry, don't send Tommy DeVito up to the press conference. You got people there making tons of money, Dexter Lawrence, other people. Don't send Tommy DeVito, who's an undrafted free agent, to answer questions about why the Giants suck.
Talk to the quarterback.
I think actually you have to talk as the quarterback.
Don Bosco prep legend.
No, I get it.
That
But
being said, also the more productive of the 2 New York quarterbacks right now.
I would say I'd rather talk to Tommy DeVito's dad, who seemed to have a better sense of the play calling and
the
what it
4th
should
and 3.
be.
Oh, that was great.
Probably the most New Jersey dad thing I've ever seen in the NFL.
That was also the most Giants thing to happen this season.
He was definitely wearing a bracelet, like for jewelry, like for fashion.
So it was a bracelet or ankle or wrist? I was thinking when you said bracelet.
Can you guys explain the Tommy DeVito line to me, by the way? 14 for 27 for 86 yards and 2 touchdowns.
And a pick because he's the Giants quarterback?
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Is that the...
That's it.
86 yards.
Yeah.
He played the whole game.
Yeah.
They scored 17 points.
It's amazing they let him throw the ball at all. That was not the plan in previous outings.
Why is Tommy DeVito the quarterback of the Giants? Someone help me out
because
with
Daniel Jones has a torn ACL and Tyrod Taylor has broken ribs.
Thank you, Bogues.
And for some reason, Colt McCoy is not on a roster. I don't know what's happening.
Why was Tommy DeVito even their third string
Well, no,
quarterback?
I think this is all about home cooking. Like he shouldn't be in the NFL. I'm keeping it a buck. Like he's clearly not an NFL quarterback, but these teams like these hometown hero type stories, and they did not expect this guy to ever to play. But now that he's around, it's like, what are you going to do? Take him out to put in Matt Barkley? Like, no, the fans wanted to root for the hometown guy, so they, of course they had to give him a shot, even though we know he's clearly not an NFL quarterback.
This isn't high school. This is the NFL.
Trust me, I know.
Listen, the Giants know what's going on here. Now, don't mess anything up. You're basically could have with Arizona winning yesterday, and I told you guys that bringing back Kyler Murray was going to lead to them getting some W's. And Kyler was the one who really kept drives alive. I mean, he was excellent at the end of the game. So they're going to win. Who knows what the Bears and the Panthers could do? The Giants could cruise to the number one overall
Absolutely.
pick.
But I liked that the Cardinals won. I came away feeling good about the Cardinals, and I'm probably stupid for that.
You're thinking too short term.
Yeah, but it did feel a little good for Cardinals fans. You have to admit that.
I think they're the ones who should be more upset than anybody.
That's
I mean, like, what's the upside to him? What's the upside to him playing that way?
I don't know. I mean, if they lost, you could say culture of losing. Listen, I'm a process guy, and I understand tanking. But for some reason, it defies logic. I felt good about the Cardinals yesterday. At least they were competitive, and they won a football game.
You beat the Falcons.
I know.
I think the problem, though, is that we've seen the Cardinals be competitive, honestly, for most of the season. Like, I mean, when Joshua Dobbs was playing quarterback, they were in a lot of games. They beat the Cowboys. So, like, we've seen them being competitive. We know that's not enough to win. So,
also, we've seen Kyler Murray play in the playoffs. Do you remember what happened? They couldn't get the ball past their own 25.
They had a lot of injuries that game.
Sure.
They was it 41-3 or something.
Kyler Murray's thumbs hurt from all the video games he was playing the night before.
The carpal tunnel.
Fed up college football programs made some changes yesterday. Jimbo Fisher's out at Texas A&M, 19-15 over the last 3 seasons. The Aggies never winning the SEC West or making the CFP with him in charge. And that $76 million buyout, it is fully locked in. Jimbo gets it even when he gets another job. And Penn State dismissed OC Mike Yurcich yesterday after 15 points and 238 yards against Michigan after 12 points and 240 in their Ohio State loss. The Sixers were winning before trading James Harden. They have kept winning without him, 137-126 in another ridiculously offensive game involving the Pacers. I hear Joel Embiid taking a shot at Harden.
Guys are happy to be, playing basketball, and we're just having fun with each other. It's fun playing that way, and I think it translates to the court because on the court, you just trust each other and to make plays.
Embiid,
Troel Embiid is back.
Yeah, that was pretty clear, wasn't it?
You think he's laying out a little thick. Well, he couldn't do it last year. Harden was still on the team.
Did you mention Tyrese Maxey?
I'm going to get there.
Okay, please.
Yeah, thank you. Embiid at 37, 13, and 7 last night, but wasn't the best Sixer. That was Tyrese Maxey scoring a career-high 50. Philly 8-1, but they are dealing with a scary situation with Kelly Oubre. He was hit by a car walking near his apartment in Philly Saturday night. Apparently, a broken rib is his worst injury. He'll be reevaluated in a week. The Thunder 111-99 winners in Phoenix with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander scoring 35. The Heat were 118-113 winners in San Antonio. That's a 5-game win streak for Miami. And the T-Wolves 116-110 winners at the Warriors, 33 for Anthony Edwards. And the Rangers tied the game with 11 seconds left in regulation, then beat the Blue Jackets in a shootout 4-3. Columbus has dropped 5 in a row. Guys, back to you.
Andrew Bogusch, thank you so much. Coming up, the most impactful win from yesterday, we'll tell you. Don't move. Maggie and Perloff, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining.
We already knew. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Takes the snap, looks to his right. Ball is swatted high in the air, and it is intercepted by the Browns. Greg Newsome along the sidelines into the end zone. Touchdown Cleveland, 33 yards off the deflection at the line of scrimmage.
Was that Browns radio? Ravens radio. Browns radio, there you go. They pull out a win, 33-31. Welcome in, Maggie and Perloff. CBS Sports Radio, bad Lamar Jackson pick 6 in this game. And, you know, a question, Perloff, about whether or not the Ravens are still the team to beat in the AFC North. They got off to this amazing start. The offense started clicking. But now here are the Browns, just a half game back from them in the AFC North standings. Pittsburgh wins another game where they get outgained yesterday. They beat the Green Bay Packers, and Cincinnati falls to Houston. I mean, this division is just wild.
Yeah, I mean, all those teams below the Ravens are pretty flawed, though. Even the Browns have serious problems here. And the Steelers, we know. The Steelers have no offense. The Browns are very inconsistent on offense, a great defense. And the most whole team, the Bengals, played terrible yesterday. So I think the Ravens are pretty safe because they have shown, regardless of yesterday's game, they can blow out teams that aren't quite ready to face them. I understand the injuries, but I would definitely bet on it. If I had to bet on this, they do have a game lead, so it's not fair.
Yeah.
I feel like the Ravens are still pretty safe. You think who's coming? The problem is who's coming up behind them?
I think the Browns might be. Now, you think inconsistent. I think maybe the second half is used as like a launching point, if you will, for the Browns. Now, I know they did suffer some injuries in the secondary. I believe Denzel Ward got banged up yesterday. But here's Myles Garrett praising Deshaun Watson and his toughness and says he's getting back into form.
Guy's a dog, and we've known that for a long time now. And kept on trying to tell y'all, once he hits his stride, he's going to be back to his previous ways, dominating the league, hitting spots, running down the field, and we're just seeing another glimpse into what he can be and who he is.
Now, the Browns also, of all the AFC North teams, do have the most, on paper, the most favorable schedule in this, for the next 7 games, if you will. So this could be setting up nicely here for the Browns. If we get that second half offense, not the first half offense, that was terrible. Deshaun Watson picked 6 on the opening drive. He was 6 for 20 in the first half. Terrible. But if we get the second half Deshaun Watson, then finally this contract doesn't become a punchline anymore.
But aren't you worried about the health there? He missed a bunch of games early in the season with a shoulder injury, which is probably still lingering in some ways. Then he was on one leg most of the game yesterday in a walking boot after the game with an ankle injury. And for this Cleveland offense to do anything, he has to move. I mean, there is no 5-step drop and throw the ball. It's not happening at all. It's him scrambling. How long is it going to keep up? The problem for all these guys is their division is so tough. He's going to be if he's limping against the Steelers and TJ Watt, that's a huge problem. So I just think this division, unfortunately, is cannibalizing itself. They're going to get to Watson eventually. And since his scrambling is the only offense. With no Nick Chubb there, they can't run consistently. So eventually this formula is not going to work. And it probably shouldn't have worked yesterday. He was limping around. I don't know how he was still running past those defenders, considering he was on one time he ran out of bounds and he started hopping on one leg. That is never a good sign, Maggie.
Well, let's hear from Deshaun Watson, man. He cut 23. Says when he went in to the locker room at half, he refocused.
When I came in to get looked at, I just wanted to make sure I locked in, and this was going to be a big moment for myself because I didn't want to let my teammates down, and I knew that I had to put a lot more on my shoulders than what I should have because we put ourselves in a hole. But was ready and prepared for that moment. I didn't fear anything, and I just focused on one play at a time, and that's what we did.
Let's just address the elephant in the room here. If Deshaun Watson was an easier guy to root for, if he hadn't had that big scandal, he'd be one of the huge stories today. And I think him gutting it out and being gritty and showing that he looked like he did in Houston would be almost like a celebration. But he is incredibly polarizing and complicated because of the lawsuits and the settlements with those massage therapists. I think that's still part of the story.
I totally agree with that, but I think you might be overstating his heroics on the field in the sense that this is a ugly divisional game, and it wasn't like their offense was clicking on all cylinders. I didn't see. There's this narrative now that Deshaun Watson is back. I'm not seeing Houston Deshaun Watson in that offense. I just think, and I don't think Kevin Stefanski is doing a very good job as a Browns coach. I feel like he makes key mistakes. I just walked away from that game. I didn't see Cleveland. I'm like, oh, Cleveland's figured it out. Now they're a real team with a good chance. I felt like that was as narrow a win as you could have. And I really worry about the way that they run their offense and throw Watson out there. He was a hero yesterday. He can't keep this up. There's no way this is going to persevere unless he gets really healthy and their offense just does something completely different.
I mean, they only had 3 possessions in the second half, touchdown, field goal. I mean, they didn't have the ball a lot. When they did make the most of it. 16 points in the fourth quarter. I mean,
and how much of it was scrambling?
Well, I mean, there's good. That's part of it. That's definitely part of it. That's part of his game, and that's a good part of his game.
Yeah, I mean, this is Myles Garrett's team. If they're going to win, they're going to win with defense. So they don't need a ton of production from Deshaun Watson. I understand what you're saying. Of course, there is the background, and it's going to be hard to embrace him. But he did only throw for 213 yards yesterday.
But against the Baltimore defense, I was surprised the score was as high as it was between these two teams.
Yeah, but part of that was the defense scored.
Yeah, that's true.
That's this AFC North. I'm telling you, I understand it feels like a good story now. They're going to beat each other up so much. There's, 8 weeks left in the season? It's going to be really hard for any team to come out of this mess and be dangerous in the playoffs. They're going to be so injured.
What the big injury, offensive tackle, left tackle, Ronnie Stanley.
Yeah.
Now, this is a big one because obviously Baltimore on a really short week playing against who else? The Cincinnati Bengals coming up on Thursday. And Stanley leaves with a knee injury.
Yep.
This is not what you want. What do you think? Are the Ravens still in the driver's seat in the AFC North? I know we got a lot of Browns fans. I know we got a lot of Cincinnati Bengals fans, Pittsburgh Steelers fans in this audience. What do you think? Coming up, Tackle Michigan next.
You're in a 5-minute break.
Bengals have their injury things too.
2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's destined to get knocked out by Jake Paul. She's destined to film it. They are Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio.
Welcome to the show. If you missed it last night, Raiders get a big win, I suppose. I mean, Antonio Pierce as an interim coach goes 2-0. Smartest thing the Raiders ever did, smartest thing the Raiders ever did, Perloff, was fire their head coach before they played both New York teams. I mean, they look amazing right now. They beat the Giants last week. Now they beat the Jets. Late interception from Zach Wilson. Stop me, you've heard that one before. But before we can move on from this story, it's almost like we can't. You know, the Jets are really on the fringe here of being a playoff team, yet Aaron Rodgers hovers over this whole thing because he told Melissa Stark last night that he wants to be back by mid-December. Why would he come back to a team that's not even, near a sure thing to make the postseason?
Because he's Aaron Rodgers, and he's more about Aaron Rodgers than anything else. That sounds critical, but I think he's been so motivated by this idea of coming back. You almost have to put him out there to pay off that motivation. That sounds really stupid.
No, you don't. Do you? You have to put him back in. Why? Because he said so?
Don't be a freaking weirdo.
I understand. It's kind of like tanking. Logically, the Arizona Cardinals have no right to win a football game. But sometimes you do things that aren't logical. You do it based on emotion. And if Aaron Rodgers is going to do all this work and redefine how people come back from an Achilles tear, you know that there's going to be pressure to let him do it.
Well, the Jets do not have a backbone when it comes to Aaron Rodgers. And
yes.
Maybe they're fine with it. Maybe they don't need a backbone, but they've let him run roughshod over the organization because of guys he wanted signed, got signed. The offensive coordinator he they got. No backup quarterback. No veteran to be brought in because he wants to tutor and mentor Zach Wilson. He wants Tim Boyle on the roster because he's his pal to go to Broadway shows with. They're fine doing that. I mean, at some point, it gets a little crazy here. If they are out of the playoffs and Perloff wants to come back, why? To prove what? That he knows better than medical doctors? That he's bigger than science? I don't understand.
Yep. No, apparently you do understand because you just stated exactly why. Aaron Rodgers, I mean, listen. If he could be part-time Joe Rogan, part-time NFL quarterback, he would be. He does want to prove that he can do this. It's important to him. He's, like Tom Brady, is very curious about this kind of thing.
Sure.
you know it's going to happen.
Testing the human body. You mean.
Testing the human body and really setting a new precedent for recovery. I think that's notable. What does he have left to achieve in his career? He's won multiple MVPs. He's won a Super Bowl. It's going to be very hard to win another Super Bowl. This could be another feather in his cap. He could be the guy who came back faster than anybody. That's something.
Wait, I thought that this whole thing was about rubbing it in the faces of the Green Bay Packers. I don't know how this achieves that goal. Was it showing the Packers, hey, I just like Tom Brady could leave the nest with Belichick and go win a Super Bowl, it was going to be like that. Hey, I don't need you. I don't need this Packers brass. You guys treated me in a way I felt like was bad at the end, and I'm going to leave. And I'm going to win with the one organization in the NFL that is so synonymous with losing.
I don't know if it was as much about rubbing it in the Packers' face. I think he looked at the two teams and said, I got to get out of Green Bay. They're way too young. There's not a lot of talent here. I can actually win a Super Bowl. I think he was thinking Super Bowl with his Jets team, and we've seen a little bit of why. Their defense is amazing. I'm not sure it was quite about vengeance. I think he thought he had a real chance to win here.
Let's go to some polls and get some updates here. EJ has got the latest. What's up, EJ?
Hey, so we have several polls up. So let's start with the Aaron Rodgers conversation. So should Aaron Rodgers come back to play this season? 15% say yes, 84% say no. So a resounding answer there on Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. We also asked a question earlier after the Raiders got another win under interim coach Antonio Pierce. Will Antonio Pierce secure the Raiders head coaching job? Right now, 70% of people say yes.
Wow.
29% say no. And then finally, we had an off-beaten path conversation about scarier living in the suburbs or in the city. The audience says 20% say it's scarier living in the suburbs. 79% say living in the city is more scary.
Gonna be honest, it's true there are a lot more variables in the city. Like it could be coming, the danger can be coming at you from any different way. You know, some odd person, some freak accident, anvil falls on your head. Like you have no idea what's going to happen. Suburbs, you basically know. It's an axe murderer showing up at your door. I mean, it's at least just one thing.
But I also think there's a variable of animals in the suburbs that would also scare me. Like bears. Like how many videos you see in the home videos where people get out of their car and they see, a bear coming into their car or a bear in their car when they come out of their house? Like that also would scare the hell out of me.
Well, it's not the bear. So I live in a place where this kind of stuff goes down, and it's not the bears that I'm that worried about. It's a rabid animal.
But how many people are actually dying from rabid animals and bears? I know there are a lot of bears in New Jersey. Are there a lot of vicious attacks? I hope not.
No, there aren't a lot of vicious attacks. I think people are smart. This is not like the tourists in Yellowstone who go up and try to take a selfie with like an angry mama bear and get between her and her cubs. But I'm worried about like a rabid fox or a rabid something that's going to latch on and not let go. Anyway.
And is this something that you come close to happening? Have you ever had to cross the street because you saw a fox on the other side?
I do see foxes every now and then. Thankfully, they don't look rabid.
The fact that you just under the side, I'm worried about a rabid fox.
Well, we get foxes in our backyard. Not cool. You don't want to see a fox in the daytime either because that's a bad sign.
Well, I'm thinking about wolves even if you live in kind of a mountain area. Like that would scare the hell out of me
that to it.
I'm not sure you know this, EJ, about Maggie. Her greatest fear in the world, the animal that most terrifies her, it's not a shark, it's not a bear, it's not a Komodo dragon, it's a squirrel.
Yeah.
Well, look, I mean, last week we learned about your fear of Siamese twins. Now we have Maggie and squirrels.
No. I'm not afraid of Siamese twins. I'm afraid of being a Siamese twin.
Oh, that makes way much more sense.
Yes, exactly. Perloff is afraid that he's going to wake up one day and just be a conjoined twin. Like
I'm not
overnight, like
of
some
that.
evil scientist just came in and was like tinkering with you at night.
It's not. It would be my worst nightmare to be a conjoined twin because there'd be no privacy, and that is really terrifying to me.
Yeah,
I don't think it's going to happen. I just think that would be very tough for my
You're just worried you'll never be able to go to the bathroom in peace ever again.
So now I need to come up with a weird fear. Like I've talked about this on other shows, like my fear of being skunked. Like that scares me.
Oh, yeah.
Getting sprayed?
I'm with you on that a little bit.
Yeah, that to me, I'd almost rather face a bear.
Wait, but
1v1 than
I don't know about that.
You'd rather face a bear than have to take a bath in tomato sauce?
I've talked about this on the show.
Are you worried about your eyes, like getting blind or something?
No, because first of all, I think 1v1 with a bear, you have a chance to get away from that. Bears don't, as Perloff said, don't really kill people all that much.
Yeah, 99.9% of encounters with bears are harmless.
Yeah, skunks want the smoke.
But they can't kill you.
They are looking for confrontation. And again, I've been to, if you've ever been to Martha's Vineyard during the summer, there are skunks everywhere. They run in packs.
Yeah.
Sometimes they run up to 7 or 8 running together. Like that is a scary thought, because once you become skunked, you are forever the person that was skunked.
Yeah.
Oh, you're
And
worried about the shame of it.
Yes.
Okay.
Nobody lets you live it down, even if it's just you and your significant other. Now, they're never going to let you live it down. And God forbid, if you're with other people or you have to go to work or go to school the next day and you say, why do you smell so bad? You guys say, I got skunked.
Wait a minute, hold on. If you're with other people, odds are they're getting skunked too.
No, I mean, like, if you show up the next day after being skunked.
Oh, got it.
And you smell, like, that's not a smell that's going to go away in a day. Like, that takes a while.
I would expect sympathy if I got skunked. I feel like people would be like, I'm so sorry for you.
No, it's like
Maggie,
a fake sympathy.
So,
Oh, jeez.
So naive. No, like, you become the butt of your school, the butt of your job. All the jokes, they hit you. Like, and that, I don't want to be that person.
Wait, EJ here?
Yeah.
You would be the
We're
butt
in
of
New
the
York
joke
City.
here?
I mean, I expect the staff to be ruthless if I came
Where
in.
bullying is condoned?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
But Maggie, you
I
can't
would
make
bully
fun
him.
of them. You're afraid of squirrels.
I am.
I
totally.
think basically you take the cake as the wimpiest animal fear out there.
I'll wear it.
I'm
because
afraid of sharks. That makes sense.
And being a Siamese twin.
which does not.
That doesn't make any sense.
No.
855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. In the chat, youtube.com/CBS Sports Radio or twitch.tv/CBS Sports Radio, where we say good morning to the Weedos and the coffee drinkers. Jeffrey Howell says a skunk can spray 20 feet. Speaking of things that stink, Michigan sign stealing scandal, the story that just won't end, Perloff, and they beat Penn State. Penn State changes offensive coordinators off of this game. There's obviously a lot of fallout with James Franklin not being able to win a game, but all eyes were on Michigan because Big Ten commissioner suspends Jim Harbaugh, kind of a half suspension though, suspends him from being on the sidelines for games, but he can coach during the week. And this is just for Penn State, Maryland, and then Ohio State. Now, Michigan has filed a lawsuit to try to get a temporary restraining order. We have not had an update yet on that.
I think this scandal has lost a lot of its air. And maybe it'll come back. But first of all, there's the factor of time. I think America gets bored by scandals pretty quickly.
And this one's pretty juicy.
It's pretty juicy, but I think it's already the fact that they beat Penn State kind of handily. I mean, maybe that wasn't handily, but they were never really in danger of losing that game. That helps. I think it might come back in the Ohio State game, but I just feel like the heat is gone. They fired Connor Stalions. The Big Ten has now at least made a ruling, tried to punish them. We'll see if it sticks through. I don't know what's left. You can't steal signs anymore. So how does it move forward?
Well, I think how it moves forward is there's this big will he or won't he be on the sideline situation with Harbaugh. And my first reaction when the suspension came down, which was after the show, we had already been off the air. The first thing I thought was, wow, they really botched this thing. Like,
who?
The Big Ten. I didn't love this half measure, this in between. I didn't think that suspending him for all 3 games made sense. And I didn't think doing nothing made sense. Suspending him for 1 game, I thought, was the perfect sweet spot. And I thought for a moment they may have turned Jim Harbaugh into a sympathetic figure. Like, man, you guys really came down. You know, it still is midseason. The investigation isn't even over yet. And now you're going to not have him on the sidelines for the Ohio State game. Like, feels like too much. But Michigan came out with such a full throttle defense and are acting like the victim here when they all but admit that they did break a rule, and that took away any of the sympathy that you could have had for Jim Harbaugh.
The problem is the reason this is a scandal is because people hate Michigan and people hate Jim Harbaugh. Honestly, I think you're underestimating what it would take for him to become a sympathetic. I think people think Michigan fans are arrogant and obnoxious, and they do like to see them fall. And I think Harbaugh is, because he's so competitive, is a bit hated in the college football community. He's very tough after games. So I think there's nothing they can do to be sympathetic. People are always going to root against Michigan. If this had happened in Arkansas, I've said this a million times, or NC State, it wouldn't be anything like this. A lot of the scandal is sort of characterized because it's Michigan. Michigan falling is what people want to see here. Now, I guess the drama could be, is Harbaugh back? What do people really want to see? Do they want to see Harbaugh come back and then lose? Or do they want to see Michigan go on to win and then lose later? What would be the best scenario if you're a Michigan hater?
If you're a Michigan hater, it's losing to Ohio State. I mean, him on the sideline and losing to Ohio State, because you don't want the caveat, asterisk, whatever.
Yeah.
If you're Ohio State, you want Jim Harbaugh on the sideline. You want this judge to grant a temporary restraining order so that he can be back on the sidelines, and then they'll figure out all this legalese in the offseason.
But I think Michigan's favored one way or the other, whether Harbaugh is there or not. I don't even think a head coach does that much during a game. How many actual key points are made here?
Do you think they would have ran the ball 32 times in a row?
Yeah.
If he had been on the sideline? It probably would have. That was wild to me. But listen, it won the game for them.
I thought that's been well received that they did that.
Well, I mean, I thought Penn State's run defense was supposed to be one of the best in the country, but they clearly were not on this day.
They gutted J.J. McCarthy's Heisman chances, which were already probably faltering. And I'm not sure the Heisman would vote for, quote-unquote, a cheater.
I think Jaden Daniel probably won the Heisman this weekend with the 400 throwing yards and rushing over 200 yards.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the updated odds. Bo Nix is moving way ahead of the field.
Interesting.
See, I mean, that's the other thing, too. Or now we have the Final Four to worry about. Michigan, I guess it's a win-in for Ohio State and Michigan. They have to be. So they could have lost this game to Penn State and then beaten Ohio State and still made the Final Four. Now they lose and they're out. You have to imagine, because there's just going to be too many one-loss teams. And the committee's never going to do a favor for Michigan now,
well,
right?
Definitely not now. There'd be outrage. Manny, can we hear from Sharon Moore, please? This is the interim coach who was on the sidelines in place of Jim Harbaugh on Saturday. Clearly, lots of emotion.
I want to thank the Lord. I want to thank Coach Harbaugh. Love you, man. Love you, man. This is for you. For this university, the president, our AD. We got the best players, best university, best alumni in the country. Love you guys. These guys right here. These guys right here, man. These guys did it. These guys did it, man. Talk to him, man.
Oh, man, I hate to laugh at a grown man crying, but, this is just too much. I mean, you guys cheated.
He's such a loser. I'm sorry. And it has to be said.
Oh, my gosh, EJ.
They cheated, okay? They took this extra step, and they've been punished for it. And now they're acting like Jim Harbaugh, it was like assassinated, or that he's not here with us anymore. And they're like, the president saying, I'm getting all these great messages. Thank you for all the support. I mean, give me a break.
From who? Tom Brady?
They do everything to a 10. Just bring it to a 7. If they brought it to a 7, so many people will be able to say, you know what, this is too much, and maybe the Big Ten is taking too much from Michigan by suspending Harbaugh. But they got to be at a 10. They got to have the whole team tweet bet after they get suspended. They got to have
which is kind of like saying, so what are you saying?
This.
Yeah, basically, if you're saying bet, you're saying, oh, okay. You want to suspend? Okay, well, watch what we can do.
Which, by the way, now, if they lose a game, I better not hear anybody say, oh, well, we didn't have Harbaugh. No, you guys said that you guys are going to win in spite of Harbaugh. Yeah. In fact, Tom Brady joined in and tweeted with you guys. So there is no more excuses for that. And then this coach is crying after the game. I mean, give me a break.
I was actually
they are
shocked
so
at this.
insufferable.
I was shocked that one of the assistant coaches liked Jim Harbaugh that much. Did you guys react the same way? I'm like, wait, somebody actually likes Jim Harbaugh that much? Because Jim is not cuddly by any means.
Well, to be fair, though, remember, he gave back a lot of money to his assistants.
Oh, I didn't remember that. Is that why they love him so much?
I mean, I don't know if that's why, but when I was thinking of why would anybody cry over Jim Harbaugh?
Yeah.
Coach Pickley, I thought, well, he did give back some money, I believe, so that made a little more sense.
Well, also, it's smart career move to get in with the Harbaughs. Because if it doesn't work out in Michigan, you always got the Ravens. This actually happened. The defense coordinator for Michigan is now the defensive coordinator for the Ravens. It's great for job security-wise. But Pine Needles in the chat said Michigan did the equivalent of jaywalking. The punishment is more like for a murder. I thought...
Preach.
I thought that it was a little heavy-handed. And I'm somebody who was on the punish Michigan, you have enough evidence, go at it. But even I thought it was a little much.
For in-person scouting, I mean, come on. I've said this, but you have not agreed with me. The hypocrisy here is stunning to me because you know what other program in the top 25 cheats? the other 24 programs.
Yeah,
You're
but
telling me
Perloff, it's not
Alabama's
about
never
that.
sent an in-person scout to Auburn?
No, but that's not what it's about. It's about Michigan got caught and
Got caught doing something that everybody does, so the penalty should not be that big.
No, it's not that. We don't know if everybody does this.
Jim Knowles, the Ohio State defensive coordinator, said 75% of teams steal signs.
No,
Okay.
no, that's
So the
steal
in-person
signs.
scouting. You
That's
tell
totally
me that
different.
nobody's sending in-person scouts. I just can't believe
I know, but
this.
Perloff,
But you keep
you
saying
don't
that,
know.
but you can't say everybody does this. But then when we
Well,
talk about what they did,
So
it's
Cam
send
Newton
somebody
got
to
caught
another
by
game.
Auburn for recruiting violations. Are you telling me you didn't know that everybody did it?
No, but here's the thing. I don't think if it was as common as you think it is to
Yes.
send scouts in person to advance scout, I don't think the coaches and athletic directors would have been so forceful behind the scenes asking for the Big Ten commissioner
Right.
to punish them.
But if he
Because
was the
if your
Illinois-
house is dirty, you're not going to try to point out the blemishes in someone else's house.
That's because Michigan, they're sitting atop the conference. If it was Illinois, you think that the other coaches are going to even bother calling the Big Ten? They wouldn't care what happened either way because they can beat that team.
Well, okay,
It's because Michigan is
what
the
benefit-
number 2 team in the country.
But what benefit does it take for a Nebraska or an Iowa or a Minnesota to hate Jim Harbaugh? In fact, wouldn't it make more sense that you'd want a Big Ten team in the college football playoff so that the Big Ten gets more money, gets more exposure, gets better recruits?
No. Well, then why are they giving each other signs to beat each other? They all hate each other, and they all want to see
Wait a minute.
Harbaugh and Michigan go
Every
down.
time the SEC's in a college football playoff, what do we hear? Chance of SEC. Everybody's saying SEC's the best conference. Like, that is conference unity when it comes to national perception is absolutely a big thing in college football.
EJ, I agree with you.
Dude,
I don't think on
totally
this one they
disagree with
do.
you.
I think this is more about like Illinois. We heard Brett Bielema last week. He's pissed off because they lost 19-17 to Michigan last year. He probably thinks they had their signs. Like I don't think that it is common to send the in-person scouting because A, you can get most of the stuff off TV anyway, and 2, it's not a great use of your resources, to be frank. I mean, again, you got guys watching tape on the TV where they said they can get all the signs. Like Michigan, what they were doing seems kind of stupid, which is also, I think, why the other coaches wanted them to get punished.
I don't think so. You're telling me if they were not a winning team right now, that this furor by the other coaches would have happened?
Well, I think maybe you're watching the success of Michigan over the last couple years, and a lot of things have to do with that. NIL has a lot to do with that. You know, they've obviously started recruiting a lot better, but this could be another mark in the column of how did they, a program that had basically struggled at times against Big Ten opponents, why now all of a sudden are they such a juggernaut?
Because they have NFL players all over. They've had 2 gigantic draft classes, and they're about to have one of the biggest draft classes in NFL history coming out. They have NFL players all over the field. That's why they're so good.
Okay, but there are other teams that have NFL talent all over the field and don't have this kind of success.
But you ask, why is Michigan having this success when they never had it? They've never had 3 draft classes in a row like this. This is going to be completely unprecedented for them.
I didn't say it was the reason. I said it could be one of the things.
If they were not, but the person in the chat nailed it. This is a jaywalking violation that's being treated like a capital murder case because, and I know you don't disagree. I think the media plays a role in this too because the national furor, because everyone knows Michigan gets clicks. So these coaches also, you think Brett Bielema is not playing to the camera too? This is college football. It's all about attention, and there's so much else going on here. If it wasn't Michigan and it was a mid-level program, there's no way, of course, we wouldn't be talking about this. So all that hype and fire has led to part of this. That's part of the reason Harbaugh's gone, because there's been so much attention that the Big Ten was embarrassed.
Okay, but here's the thing. Yes, if it was a middling program, I agree, we probably wouldn't be this big on it. But if it was any of the other top programs, we still would have this kind of fervor. If this was Alabama, if this was
if it was
Georgia.
Alabama and Georgia, okay. But
if
what
this was Ohio State, this is the perch that Michigan enjoys, which is you're one of the winningest college football programs through history, and you have like this, you matter. If this was Notre Dame, it'd be huge.
Of course. You're naming the most powerful franchises.
I'm not saying it's just Michigan, though. I'm saying if it was any high-level program, we'd care.
I think there'd be a little bit of a different flavor if it was Ryan Day and Ohio State than Jim Harbaugh in Michigan. I think Harbaugh rubs a lot of people the wrong way.
Oh, he does, but I don't think
Ohio
so.
State is one of the most hated programs in all of America.
But Ryan Day is not.
Ohio State.
But I don't think Ryan. Yes, you're right. They go after the program, but I don't think anyone cares one way or the other about Ryan Day. They care about Harbaugh.
We made fun of Ryan Day because he called out Lou Holtz.
Yeah, I think people care
Notre
about
Dame.
Ohio State's demise. Like people do not like that program either, which makes this very weird because I don't. That's why I think this is more warranted because it's not like if you're rooting for Michigan, people want to root for Ohio State. That's not the case at all.
What if
if it was Notre Dame, this would be bigger because there's a real love-hate with Notre Dame.
Yeah, but the Notre Dame's probably not going to be a real title contender quite yet. What if it was Florida State or Washington or Oregon, one of the other top 10 teams? I think
any team that's winning would all have the same fervor because there's always going to be the conversation of, are you winning because of these signs? You can't separate the winning from the signs and say, well, we only care because you're winning. Yeah, we know. Because if this was South Florida or if this was SMU and you saw they were stealing signs, you say, well, it can't be that big a deal because they're not winning that many games.
But Ohio State had Michigan signs and didn't win the game.
Right, but that's not the point. The point is that they took a different step to get their signs. So the implication is, well, maybe them taking this extra step gave them a competitive advantage. It was what the Big Ten said in their statement.
Right, but obviously having the signs, and they had all the signs. We saw it in print. They had all of Michigan signs is not that big of a competitive advantage because Ohio State couldn't beat them.
Well, we don't know if they had all the signs. We saw a sheet that had words that meant certain things. We don't know if that was all the signs or not. We don't know that.
And Michigan had all the signs?
I don't know that either, but I do know that they were sitting there at the 50-yard line recording the other team's signs, and they were doing this clearly for a reason that they thought gave them some kind of advantage. Otherwise, like Maggie said, why would you do it?
It doesn't seem like a good.
So you guys
use of
want the
resources.
death penalty over this little thing? That's crazy.
I don't want the death penalty, but I think this idea that you have to separate that we shouldn't care about this because if Michigan was a losing team, we wouldn't care. It totally goes against the point of this whole issue. The point is, yes, they're winning, and we wonder maybe this is why. Like, we saw C.J. Stroud throw for 350 yards against a Lou Anarumo defense. We saw C.J. Stroud throw for 500 yards last week. We saw C.J. Stroud throw for 450 yards against Georgia in a playoff game, and he couldn't solve the Michigan defense 2 years in a row. That doesn't raise suspicions. It raises suspicions for me.
855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Coming up, the one thing we got loud wrong this weekend. We'll tell you in a moment. Don't move. Maggie and Perloff, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Stream the NFL on Westwood One for free, sponsored by AutoZone. All season long, you can listen to every Westwood One broadcast of the NFL live on the NFL app by asking Alexa to open Westwood One Sports, or on the Odyssey app. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Free AutoZone Fix Finder service can help you find a fix for free. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Restrictions apply. Wild week in the NFL. I mean, wild week. What time? 3:45. They call it the witching hour on Red Zone.
Yeah.
I had no idea who's going to win about 4 games. So one game, actually a little later, the Sam Howell is awesome for the Commanders. They can't win a football game.
The headline.
But we talk a lot about tanking and trying to get in the draft for a quarterback. Washington might be in a tough spot because they have a good young quarterback, but they're going to have a draft pick that's in the top 10, possibly. I have no idea what to do there. I'd almost rather be really bad than this situation.
Oh, yeah. This one is like right in the middle. Sorry to jump you. I think that this is what team, first of all, who's going to be coaching this team is a
no idea
question. And then secondly, this is always the lie that teams tell themselves. Yeah. We're not going to be picking this high again. So we have to get the quarterback now because we're not going to be picking maybe not 10, but this is always what happens, especially in the top 10. Like, we get this right, we'll never be picking here again.
I thought you meant the other lie. The Giants lie that Daniel Jones is a good enough quarterback.
They might tell themselves that lie.
So there's 2 lies. Which lie is worse?
Paying the guy is worse. Yeah. Paying the guy, that's how you get into quarterback hell.
So the same situation as Justin Fields in Chicago. Which lie do they tell themselves? Hey, we're up at the top of this draft.
I'm telling you which lie they're going to tell themselves.
They're going to draft somebody.
They'll draft somebody. That's how I always think it happens, especially with the money.
What if Justin Fields plays so well down the stretch?
I don't think it matters. Also, it's not their pick, right? It's the Carolina pick that you'd be taking a quarterback with.
Well, say the Carolina pick is 1 or 2 and Justin Fields just catches fire. I mean, the guy's thrown 8 touchdowns and 1 pick in his last 2 full games. It's not that easy, Maggie. You were so Machiavellian and cold-hearted that you would always just go to the draft. No. But these franchises have actual people in the building. Don't know me. You know you'd be Belichickian and cut those dudes.
They have people in the building, and some of those people are financial people, and those financial people would tell you, start over. Start over with the quarterback. Don't pay a quarterback you're not sure about.
Yeah, but it's easier said than done when you have a Justin Fields who's a talented quarterback.
Totally.
Now, Sam Howell's got MVP numbers out of nowhere, even though they are winning. By the way, you did get that bet yesterday.
That's the one I got right. Everything else I got wrong. Lost a Lamar Jackson rushing prop on a half a yard. It's just brutal.
Wait. What do you mean?
I had Lamar Jackson rushing yards 41.5, and I took the over, and he got 41.
That's why there's casinos. Vegas is undefeated.
This is when I knew this is not my year.
Is there any chance they could go back and recalibrate one of the plays?
Well, that's what I'm always wondering. Like, do I file a protest? Like, you're telling me there's not a yard in there somewhere? Of course there is. So fat guy on the sideline just like moving the chains. Come on. Sorry.
Can we pour back over the film to find a yard for Lamar Jackson? Or a half yard? There's a push.
Also, are all the people who move the chains fat?
No, I'm just mad.
Hey, taking out your anger on the guys who move the chains.
I know. I could have called them old. They're not all anything.
They're one of the two. That's a fair bet.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said
There's
that.
probably a Venn diagram working somewhere with that.
I lost myself in the anger. Yes, Manny?
Had Mark Andrews over 45.5, finished with 44.
You and I, same book, same page.
I hate this.
It's really frustrating. Let's go to Aaron, who's in Connecticut. He might be frustrated as well. Looks like you're a Patriots fan. Hey, Aaron, how are you?
Hey, I'm not too bad. How you guys doing?
Fantastic. What do you got?
I just wanted to know if you guys were given the opportunity to be the GM of the team, what would 2024 look like? Like who's big free agents getting?
I don't know if it's about free agents, Aaron, but thank you for the call. The big question facing the Patriots is they are going to have a top pick. Team is terrible. Do you let Belichick be the person who grooms this next quarterback, or do you start over totally with a new regime?
Yeah, and if you start over with a new regime, it's not just the new coach, it's the entire organization. You really can't keep anybody because everybody there is part of the Belichick family. Man, I understand. Say you get Drake May at the number 2 overall pick. You're going to want a young offensive coordinator, a Ben Johnson of the Lions type in there. If you bring that guy in, you got to wipe out everybody. That means a new GM, new assistant GM, new assistant coaches, new special teams. I am torn on this one because I really am a Belichick fan, but it might be time to rip the Band-Aid.
Day by day.
There's no way that they're not going to give him a little time with the rookie. I've been thinking about this
Belichick?
more and more. Yep.
Okay.
Because to your point, I don't think you can erase 20 years, right, in one off season. And the Belichick disciples are people who could be taking over this team are who's in line? Gerard Mayo, defensive guy. Mike Vrabel, defensive guy. Are they going to give it to Bill O'Brien? Who Mac Jones looks awful. I don't know if that's Mac Jones. I don't think Bill O'Brien suddenly forgot how to coach. You can bring back Josh McDaniels, make him the head coach. Like, I think that Belichick's fingerprints are on this thing. I thought he was definitely getting fired, Perloff, and now I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I mean, I know as a fact that they are thinking we're getting a new quarterback next year and Belichick's going to coach them.
That's what I'm thinking, right?
Yeah, they're scouting quarterbacks right now. Then again, maybe the rest of the season does embarrass owner Robert Kraft to the point where he's ready.
I mean, all the reporting is saying the opposite, right? All the reporting is saying he could have been left in Germany and the decisions at the end of the game were totally mind-boggling. I mean, Mac Jones, yes, threw a very bad interception, but you're going to bench him for a 2-minute drill and bring in Bailey Zappi? What did you think was going to happen? Zappi comes in and throws an equally bad interception.
Yeah, but he did throw 2 sweet passes. I don't understand why Bailey Zappi. He got him down the field pretty quickly.
Then he did a fake spike into a pick.
Yeah, but first of all, it wasn't the fake spike. The fake spike was awesome. It was the pick that was bad.
He clearly couldn't handle everything being sped up. Bogish is here with headlines. Good morning, Bogish.
Good morning. Don't you think, though, those reports about possible changes and Vrabel's the home run guy, don't you think they're coming from the Kraft? Like, they feel like trial balloons to me. Like, they're putting them out there to be like, if anybody freaks out and goes, no, you can't fire Bill. And people are more like, well, yeah, okay, I get it. You could definitely fire Bill.
Yeah, I think they are probably trying to get people used to it. But again, like, are you really? You're not going to fumigate the building of Belichick people in one offseason. You could get people who are still loyal to him. I don't know. It's hard to do. How do you erase all that?
It's been 3 years now. And Brady won a Super Bowl. It's been too long.
Yeah. No, I get it.
By the way, Nick Caserio is not coming back now because he's got a juggernaut in Houston.
Yeah, he looks like the smartest GM in the league.
Who would have thought that? Who would have seen that
I
coming?
did not see that. It was a plot twist. And Will Anderson looked great yesterday, too. So both picks have been looking good.
So there was one drive in Vegas last night where the Jets kind of scored 2 touchdowns, but neither one counted. Zach Wilson's dive through the pylon negated by the QB, barely stepping out at the 3-yard line. Then Breece Hall ran it in, but tight end Tyler Conklin was called for holding. Gang Green settling for another field goal. They needed a touchdown in the final minutes, and this happens.
Shotgun to Wilson. 5-step drop. Dumps it short. And it's picked off Spillane at the 15, 30, 35. Chase down from behind at the 40. Robert Spillane with his 3rd pick of the year, and the defense does it again.
Jason Horowitz on Raiders radio. The Jets did get one more shot, but a Hail Mary fell incomplete. They lost 16-12. It's now 36 drives without a touchdown for Wilson's offense.
So much frustration. I don't know how to put it any other way.
And now they're 4-5, but Aaron Rodgers apparently targeting mid-December for his return from his torn Achilles. These Raiders now 2 for 2 since firing Josh McDaniels. Josh Jacobs ran for $117 last night, while rookie QB Aiden O'Connell threw for the deciding points early in the fourth quarter.
What? We should have known that this was going to be a W. I'm just seeing now that apparently Josh Jacobs said after the game that he got a pep talk from Bo Jackson. Good night.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
definitely out for the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The Giants allowed 28 first-half points in Dallas yesterday, while mustering just 27 yards of offense. Yes, the Cowboys had more points than the Giants had yards in the first half. Maybe it's time for a few changes, Brian Dable?
Yeah, no, we just got to, we all can do better. Start with me.
Is there an ETA on doing better? The Giants lost 49-17. Dak Prescott throwing for 4 scores, running for another. His team has won 12 in a row at home, and they sweep the Giants by a total score of 89-17.
Maggie, we talked about on Friday. We both knew the Cowboys were going to kill them, but we were afraid of that 17-point line.
I know.
We really shouldn't have been.
No, it's like, who's going to lay the 17? Cowards.
There was a moment early in the game where the Cowboys obviously were to score a lot of points, but it felt like
they stopped them on the goal line.
They were kind of letting the Giants hang around that spread for a little while, and then the second half it was over.
No, it was like the
second quarter.
The 100th CeeDee Lamb reception. It's like, all right.
So that game in Dallas, a blowout. It was closer in L.A. where the Lions outlasted the Chargers 41-38. Riley Patterson kicking the 41-yard winner as time expired after Dan Campbell went for it on 4th and 2, so Justin Herbert wouldn't get the ball back with time left to tie or win the game. Jared Goff liked the gamble from his head coach.
Ballsy. I don't know if I can say that, but ballsy, and it paid off. And we love when he puts us in those positions to make those plays. And he's got balls of steel, and today he showed it.
That was Goff with Tracy Wolfson on CBS.
It's funny. He's like, I don't know if I can say ballsy, but balls of steel.
Ballsy. Green light, Tracy. Okay, here it all comes.
Kind of feels like you're reveling in it. Actually,
another defensive mastermind performance by Brandon Staley as head coach,
goodness.
and you have the most expensive defense in the league, I think.
I was thinking about this. I know it became a back and forth, and it was score for score. It ended up being a really entertaining game if you like that kind of game. But I was like, early in the game, like, this is the game that gets coaches fired. Like, Josh McDaniels has already been fired. You're not going to be the first guy fired. And then the Chargers caught up and made it a back and forth. But
am I an idiot? I thought the Chargers had a pretty good game. I came away from
Kellen
that.
Moore did.
I came away from that saying, "Ooh, the Chargers look kind of good in that game."
The offense.
Except for the 41 points.
Yeah, but that's all on Brandon Staley.
Yeah.
And it's amazing that if no way he survives, right? He cannot survive this season.
No, but I felt like Robo was basically trying to will Kellen Moore to get the job.
The Chargers spent $50 million combined this season on Mack and Bosa. 0 sacks for the entire game.
But I mean, Derwin James, he has more penalties than plays. He's a great player, but he is just a huge problem. It's poorly coached. Watch him sneak in the playoffs and keep this torture going for the Chargers.
This game was also oddly fast for 41-38. It ended, and the other 3 games had like 7-8 minutes left. It was really bizarre to me how fast they've played that game.
Not a lot of penalties.
I guess.
By the way, my guy Amon-Ra St. Brown, another 150-yard game.
Yep.
Pretty cool. What was the category? Interesting?
Cool.
Top 5 coolest athletes. The announcers sure love them. Go ahead.
Texas A&M is about to pay Jimbo Fisher $76 million to not be their head coach. The move to fire him began on Thursday, but didn't happen until yesterday after Saturday's game which they won by the BTW. And Boise State fired head coach Andy Avalos after a win Saturday as well. They're 5-5, 4-2 in the Mountain West, in danger of their first losing season since '97. The Broncos never ranked in his 3 seasons. Anthony Davis, 30 points, 13 boards as the Lakers held off the Blazers 116-110 without LeBron and a bruised calf.
Everybody just got to step up. Missing a guy like that from all facets of the game, from rebounding, playmaking, scoring, defense. Guys have to step up, and I think guys did tonight.
Rui Hachimura adding 19 points, said nobody cares, but Tyrese Maxey, career-high 50. Sixers outscored the Pacers 137-126, as if that's hard. Guys, back to you.
Thank you, Bogish. Coming up, the one team that got its swagger back, but who deserves credit for the W? We'll get that in just a moment. Don't move. Maggie and Perloff, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. 15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Purdy under center, a 5-step drop. Now going to pump and throw down the sideline. Kittle! He's got it and he's gone! Touchdown! San Francisco!
Looks like the 49ers got the swagger back a little bit. Welcome to the show, Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. It was a beatdown of the Jags. The 49ers snapped their 3-game losing streak, Perloff. I'm not ready to declare them again like greatest in the NFC. Yeah. Eagles were off this week. Obviously, Cowboys took advantage of a very down Giants team, but they looked really good. You know, Detroit still looked really good, you know, pulling out that win against the Chargers on the road. I love what the 49ers can do. Clearly getting Debo and Trent Williams back matters, but I'm still not ready to declare that they now are like the only front runner in the NFC.
Yeah, I mean, I said this last week. They're the most talented team. They're the best team, but they're probably going to have to go on the road in the playoffs. So I agree with you. I'd say it's dead even right now with the Eagles, Niners, and Chiefs. It's the three real Super Bowl contenders to me. They're so talented. They're just ridiculous. And I think the key to yesterday's game was McCaffrey finally got back to being Christian McCaffrey. He had 5.9 yards per carry. Listen to his numbers in the 4 games previous. 4.5, 3.0, 3.9, 2.7. So is that all Trent Williams being there? They're designed to have good first down running plays. If they don't, then everything kind of falls apart. You were right, Brock Purdy's not an MVP because he can't carry them on himself. But when they can run the ball, man, Brock Purdy is really, really good.
Well, not just that, but when you are up 10-0 after the first quarter, it's like good night.
Lights out.
You know, that's enough. And you know, we can talk about the Jags side of this and how their offense is totally anemic / 49ers defense was smothering. But this 49ers team, almost more than anyone, I feel like, is just built to be ahead. A lot of good teams are like that. But I think the difference is I don't know if I believe the 49ers could dig themselves out of a hole. Again, maybe because of Purdy's and some of his shortcomings, even though he was excellent yesterday, but he's great with a lead.
Well, let me ask you this, though. Are they any different than the Cowboys? Or obviously
another good front runner.
And the Eagles, with their pass rusher, are a great front runner. I don't think they have any come from behind wins. They jump out on everybody. They did come back from behind against the Cowboys, but generally they're not a comeback team.
Well, I would have a little more faith, I think, in the Eagles, and I don't know about the Cowboys. The Cowboys are definitely a front runner.
These teams are all kind of built the same. And you saw the Niners, they're loaded up on pass rushers to close out games. And your Buffalo Bills tried to do that same thing. It seems you can't control anything in the playoffs, but if you have pass rushers, you can do a lot. And you saw it yesterday. Poor Trevor Lawrence. I can't believe I feel bad for the number 1 pick.
Yeah, I think he's going to be all right.
The natural Trevor Lawrence, it was rough yesterday. He had, usually you get 2.3 seconds or something. That's the average.
Yeah.
He had 0.8 seconds before the rush was on top of him.
5 sacks. The 49ers got home on Trevor Lawrence, and, it was just rough. But I have to commend the 49ers. Second year in a row where they make a big move at the deadline. And last year was Christian McCaffrey, who paid instant dividends and continues to pay dividends. But I think adding Chase Young, strength on strength, more, and just even more ferocious as a defensive front, a motivated Chase Young. I mean, this was a good move for the 49ers.
But was that really Chase Young yesterday? Do we know? Christian McCaffrey, you could see the results instantly.
Sure.
It seemed like it was the Niners defense got back to being the Niners defense. I'm not quite sure what the impact is.
Do you think it was Steve Wilkes being on the sideline?
I think it was Fred Warner got out of his coma yesterday and started making plays again, which I didn't understand. it's funny, the linebacking core had been a weakness for this team, which is never the case because Greenlaw had been limping around. So I don't know. I understand Chase Young is the narrative here. I just saw there's so many talented players. It's kind of hard to figure out where does he fit in this.
I know, but that's what great teams do, right? Like a stack on top. And I thought it was excellent. Can we listen to a little Eric Armstead, please? Manny cut 2. He said he did feel a difference with Steve Wilks being on the sideline, the defensive coordinator.
A little bit. I felt his energy. He's, came up to us, congratulated us on some plays, and, that voice of telling us to keep going and, don't let up. And so, yeah, I definitely felt him on the sideline.
There you go. Can't get that through the headset. Don't give up.
Never give up, never surrender.
Yeah, right. I mean, you're up.
Galaxy Quest.
Yeah, Steve Wilks is basically Braveheart there on the sideline. The problem with the Niners is they're kind of small on the front, so you have to run down their throat. Javon Hargrave is amazing at rushing the passer, but I don't know what happened to Jaguars. They have Travis Etienne. They couldn't run at all on this team. So Dallas, Philadelphia, will they be able to run on San Francisco and not fall behind 10-0?
I think the question is, does it look like the 49ers are back to being the creme de la creme, the cream of the crop, if you will, in the NFC after what you saw yesterday? It was thoroughly impressive. You're coming off your bye week, you fly cross country, and this was never a game.
So poll question would be, is San Francisco the team to beat in the NFC? Is that fair?
Are they back to being the team to beat? Because I think they were when they got off to the 5-0 start.
Yeah, but the Eagles were 5-0 at the same time, too. I don't think they ever jumped the Eagles in playoff odds. I think, honestly, the Eagles were on a bye, so who knows? I feel like right now, that game yesterday was convincing, but if they have to go to the link, are they the team to beat?
855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Maggie and Perloff right here on CBS Sports Radio. Coming up, the biggest win of the weekend. We got it for you. Who secured it? Get that to you in a moment. Don't move.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's been on the TB12 method since he was 6. She's on her 3rd scotch. They are Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio.
Last night, oddly compelling for a game that didn't feature a whole lot of touchdowns. Hey, welcome to the show, Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff, and two quarterbacks that are not really great, but yet it still was an interesting game, and that's Jets-Raiders. Raiders are now 2-0 under head coach Antonio Pierce, and the Jets lose, and this kind of pushes them even further out of the fringe of the playoff conversation, Perloff, with Aaron Rodgers and his big funky shoes on the sideline, talking to Melissa Stark about how he wants to come back in December. Come back to what? I mean, the defense has been great, but if they're not in a playoff hunt, to come back just to say you did is a really short-sighted mission.
Absolutely. I think the Raiders win was nice, feel good for Antonio Pierce. Maybe he'll get the head coaching job, but that's not going anywhere. They're 5-5, and they have really tough games. They're probably going to be 5-7 with Miami and KC. The Jets losing that game, which I thought they had, maybe I'm a fool here, but I thought they had a great chance to win that game. I thought they were in control for the first, say, 40 minutes of the game. In fact, I'm not quite sure how they did they were moving the ball probably better than the Raiders. They just can't get in the end zone, which is a major thing in today's NFL.
I know. Thank you for that analysis. I mean, the penalties were terrible.
Yeah.
And Zach Wilson throwing a pick at the end of the game is basically death taxes, and Zach Wilson throwing a pick at the end of the game. I mean, and to be honest, Wilson didn't play all that bad. He's athletic. He has a big arm, but you can always count on him for a mistake. And on the Raiders side of things with Aiden O'Connell, I get why you had to do that, right? You fire Josh McDaniels, so Jimmy Garoppolo is hurt, so you sit down the Belichick former draft pick and whatever. Now that you are possibly looking at a playoff situation, which until they play those games against the Dolphins and the Chiefs, you can't totally rule them out. I know on paper they're big underdogs. I get it.
Aiden O'Connell's going to beat Patrick Mahomes. I feel safe ruling that out.
Well,
okay.
I'm just saying, I know Jimmy Garoppolo couldn't beat Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl, but if Jimmy is healthy, I get you want to see what the rookie has.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Garoppolo is the better quarterback, right? I mean,
I don't think so.
Nah, I'm with DJ.
I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo looked like he needed to retire after watching him play in that Detroit Lions Monday Night Football game. I mean, I think he's cooked.
I get it. He looks washed, but at the same time, Could you not see Aiden O'Connell getting banged up in a game and Garoppolo comes in and wins the game? I mean, that's been Garoppolo's whole thing.
Well, the one thing about Aiden O'Connell, I think the reason that he's popular there is because they told him, we're going to throw to Devontae Adams every time. And for some reason, Jimmy G wasn't getting that memo.
I don't know
now
why.
they don't even pretend. It's either Josh Jacobs' run or a throw to Devontae Adams. Last night, 13 targets.
Yep.
Only 6 catches, but that's partly because of Aiden O'Connell.
And Sauce Gardner was doing a really nice job.
But there were a couple plays where I could see Devontae Adams getting upset with his new friend, Aiden O'Connell. Yeah, I don't think you can go back to Jimmy G. Because you won this game,
No, you
it's going to be tough.
But I'm just saying, who actually gives you a better chance to win? It's definitely not an injured Garoppolo. I'll give you that. But when some of these games, if you're staring at possibly making the playoffs, do you think Antonio Pierce has a better shot of getting this job if they somehow become a playoff team? Definitely.
Who gives you the best chance of winning? What they did last night, handed to Josh Jacobs every single play.
That is true.
But listen, NFL defensive coordinators aren't stupid. They can understand. They'll start to creep up and put 8 in the box or whatever against Josh Jacobs. This is not a long-term formula. Again, great win. You can beat both New York teams. Hooray.
Yeah.
Now it's time to get to work and see where you really are.
This was easily the smartest move that the Raiders have done in years, which is firing their coach before they play the Giants and the Jets. I mean, that's how you do it, Perloff. That's the playbook. It's like calling the players-only meeting before you play the worst team in the league. Of course, it's going to look like it worked.
The problem is you can't give him too much credit because they clearly should have fired Josh McDaniels in the offseason.
Yes, that's fair.
I mean, from all the stories we're hearing about the building, how he lasted that long being that hated, unless this is sort of Monday morning quarterback where now everybody hates him. But have you ever seen a fired coach get more flack than Josh McDaniels?
I mean, the new thing for this team is smoking cigars in the locker room after the game. It's like it's week 10. This is not the Super Bowl. This is not we're going to the Super Bowl and you're smoking cigars.
I do think you can't make 10 bad first-round choices in a row and still have a good team.
Yeah.
They made so many bad decisions that their roster is not very deep at all.
855-212-4CBS. You're right about that. 855-212-4227. But let us not rain on the bad vibes because everything is going really well in Vegas right now, and those fans deserve to have a little fun. Okay, let's get to what we call the hurry-up offense. 30 seconds on every game from yesterday. All right, EJ, you're going to throw out the games. We'll tell you what we thought.
Okay, let's get to it. So let's begin in Germany, where the Colts squeaked away with a 10-6 victory over the now 2-8 New England Patriots.
The most bizarre end of the game situation I've ever seen from someone like Bill Belichick, who I feel like should know better. Mac Jones throws, a bad interception. So they bring Bailey Zappi in to run the 2-minute drill to try to win the game, and he threw an interception. Both these quarterbacks stink. The question is, will Belichick be able to coach the next quarterback that they will inevitably draft?
My biggest takeaway from this game is that German stadium had this cool retractable roof. Have you guys seen the visual of it? So it made me rethink about, I think a lot of stadiums could have a retractable roof. And they're building a new Bills stadium. Put that cool roof there.
Also, just quickly, Indianapolis, only 2 of the next 7 opponents they have winning records. Maybe something to keep an eye on.
Okay, let's head over to Minnesota, where the fighting Joshua Dobbs win over the Saints there, 27-19 for the Vikings.
Okay, don't put me in the position to say anything negative about Josh Dobbs because I'm the original Josh Dobbs fan in this room. I love Josh Dobbs as a person. I love his story. He was great the first half, 18 for 22. I do think you saw a little bit of the downside of having a quarterback who's been there for 2 weeks in the second half.
Think?
So I think this is exciting, but I'm a little worried that this offense is really going to come together and sustain itself for the Vikings because they were letting New Orleans hang around.
EJ, they are not called the fighting Josh Dobbses. He's called the Pastronaut, and that's what we're going to go with from now to the end of time. So awesome. They get prime time next weekend, Sunday night game with Josh Dobbs. I think he leads the Vikings to the playoffs. And, Perloff, I'm surprised for New Orleans you didn't bring up the fact that your favorite player disappeared from the game plan. Taysom Hill.
Yeah.
Derek Carr gets knocked out of the game. Jameis Winston in the game. And you get no of the cool, change of pace guy with Hill.
I'm pretty into Jameis as a backup, too. But I was happy about that. That's entertaining for the whole world. He threw 2 picks, and easily, if he'd had another minute left on the clock, could have thrown the third pick.
That's our second horn. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, we're strict over here.
Yeah.
So let's get over to Cincinnati, where you saw rookie sensation C.J. Stroud lead the Texans to a late second win over. Lead Texans a late second win over the Bengals.
There's one thing C.J. Stroud does that I don't think anyone saw coming. When he avoids the rush and runs around and makes plays, everyone's been comping him to these stationary quarterbacks. I saw some Patrick Mahomes yesterday. And, of course, I think at some point a lot of young quarterbacks will make a mistake when they move too much, and he finally did. But his mobility is what's surprising to me.
I love how he clearly elevates the rest of the roster, too. We're talking about C.J. Stroud now as an MVP quarterback. Noah Brown, 7 receptions, 172 yards. Dalton Schultz, 4 for 71. Tank Dell, 6 for 56. Even John Mechie gets into the conversation back from injury. Like, he's got it all. And for the Bengals, this is tough. I'm not used to watching Joe Burrow lose this kind of game.
Crazy. You don't bet against Joe Burrow, but yesterday it would have worked.
I'm Joe. Okay, what else?
Okay, let's get to Pittsburgh, a game that almost ended in a fight. So the Steelers win 23-19 over the Packers.
I just don't understand. Kenny Pickett's not getting any better, you know? It's just always the same, not getting any better. Yesterday, 14 for 23, 126 yards, no touchdowns. I guess no picks, too. No nothing. And this Steelers secondary actually gave up some big plays. I know they won this game. I'm nervous about this team because I know we've been talking about the offense all season long. This is nothing new, but I'm just not impressed. Sorry.
Ran for 200 yards. They didn't need anything, but they controlled the game on the ground. Jalen Warren is amazing.
Yep.
That's how they're gonna keep it close. And if they can get a little bit of a lead and run it out on the ground, then Mike Tomlin's thrilled.
Also, what happened to the Jordan Love Christian Watson connection? Where did that go?
Jordan Love's great. It's Watson. He is not good.
I don't know. Love missed a couple throws yesterday. Okay.
Here's a game that I keep forgetting actually happened. The Bucks beat the Titans 20-6 in Tampa.
Yeah. Wake-up call here from Will Levis. It's not going to be all 50-yard bombs down the field, throwing touchdowns. This was a good performance from the Bucks defense. You get reminded, hey, Todd Bowles can coach a really good defense against a rookie quarterback. This one was all defense.
Yeah, Mike Evans dropped an easy touchdown, and then the next drive, he caught a ball at the 5-yard line and said, I'm going to make up for it. Just when he wants to take over a game, the wide receiver for the Bucks, he absolutely can.
Okay, let's get to the next game here. We'll go to Baltimore, where the Browns, with a surprise come-from-behind victory over the Ravens, 33-31.
I think the Browns were the better team on the field. I thought the Ravens got really loose in the second half. I think their lead was a little bit artificial in that game, and it's, for some reason, the outcome, I know the Browns were never leading, did not surprise me. I felt like the Ravens didn't look tight yesterday.
Yeah, the Ravens were asking to give that game away.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the second time this season that the Browns have rallied from a double-digit deficit to come back and win. They did it against the 49ers, now doing against Baltimore. They had not come back from a 14-point deficit since 2014. It's been like a decade, but this could be the turn here for Cleveland, and that second half from Deshaun Watson was special.
I think the AFC North is going to continue to do this. There's going to be games where they beat each other up. By the way, had you guys ever heard of Keaton Mitchell?
I learned about him last week. And now learned about him second week in a row.
Yeah, but the Ravens can't run out a lead. That's a little bit of a problem. They're still a little bit too much Lamar.
Yeah, Lamar had a pick six in this game. I mean, Deshaun had one too, but his was later. Yes.
Let's get to the 4 o'clock games here. So let's go to Arizona, where Kyler Murray returns triumphantly as the Cardinals beat the Falcons 25-23.
I mean, what are we doing here if we're the Cardinals? I told you what was going to happen. I warned you. You could have had the inside track on the number 1 overall pick and start this thing over, but instead, Murray comes in and did exactly what you'd expect. Make an incredible play out of nothing where they're at 3rd and 10, and he has a 13-yard scramble that actually took like a 40-yard route. I think he always loves running sideways, backwards, every way but forwards, and they end up winning the game. And I think long-term, this is going to be a mistake.
I think you're right. I do agree with you in theory. But in practice, you get some W's here. You might still be the 4th pick, get Marvin Harrison Jr., get another right tackle with the Texans pick. Then you have a lot of weapons there. There is you're paying this dude, so you might as well consider him at least as a possibility. Kyler Murray, that is.
Arguably the most exciting game from the weekend. You have the Lions beating the Chargers 41-38 at SoFi Stadium.
I loved everything about this game. I love watching the Lions offense. I love when Justin Herbert plays well. This was my favorite game of the weekend. And I'm actually kind of glad that Justin Herbert didn't have an opportunity to blow it at the end because I think people were waiting. No, I'm not saying blow it. I think Justin Herbert gets way too unfairly criticized for fourth quarter meltdowns when, to me, it's obviously the coaching staff. And actually, Brandon Staley didn't get a chance to screw it up either because the Lions just won that game. But I don't know what I take away from that for the Lions.
Wait, so you're basically saying because Dan Campbell decided to go for it on 4th and 2,
he saved the Chargers from charging.
Saved the Chargers from charging. Okay. All right.
I questioned on that game. Are you taking anything away as the Lions as a real competitor after that game, or are you worried about the fact that they got torched on defense?
Oddly, I'm not that worried about them getting torched on defense, even though they did. But Herbert was awesome yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't have an opportunity. He did not have an opportunity to win the game, but he was excellent. They went throw for throw against each other, thoroughly entertaining, and maybe the kind of game that gets Brandon Staley fired. You're supposed to be the defensive guy.
Let's get to Jerry World, where the Cowboys beat down the New York Giants 49-17.
Yeah. Thorough domination here from Dallas. I mean, it took a minute in the first quarter. They got stopped at the goal line, but then after it felt like they were off to the races, and it felt like they were making a point in this game. Clearly, the Giants were inferior competition, but they wanted to pad stats for CeeDee Lamb. They wanted big stats for Gallup. They wanted big stats for Dak Prescott. They got their wish.
And Brandon Cooks all of a sudden
Cooks
shows
as
up.
well.
CeeDee Lamb. Now it's interesting to me. You have a three-way race as MVP candidates or wide receiver because I think Tyreek Hill's an MVP candidate. I think A.J. Brown is arguably the MVP of the Eagles. Now CeeDee Lamb is becoming that guy. I'm fascinated by him. He's so good. That one-handed catch was amazing yesterday. Then again, the Giants,
Let's go to Seattle, where the Seahawks squeaked away a 29-26 victory over the Commanders.
Gosh, honestly, I don't understand anything about the Seahawks. I'm not going to lie to you.
On the edge.
I'm not going to lie to you. I want to buy into the Seahawks, but the fact that they let the Commanders hang around, I'm not sure the Seahawks are an elite team. I don't care about the Commanders. They're fine. That's all set up for the future. The Seahawks, I want to see a little more.
Man, they win these close games. Yeah. I don't know how they do it. Again, it feels like they're driving a really fast car with a blindfold on. Like, where is this going to go? Is Gino going to be good? Is he going to not be good? Is the defense going to make a play? I have no clue. All I know is that they're 6-3 with the same record as the 49ers right now.
Yeah, but is it they do are 6-3 with the same record as the 49ers, but they don't feel like two similar teams. They're not on the same footing right now at all.
And finally, the Sunday night game that we talked about at the top of the hour here, you got the Raiders beating the Jets 16-12.
Do you think NBC Jets? Do you think NBC was right to keep that game in prime time? I've been thinking about this. It did feel like a JV game. You saw Aiden O'Connell against Zach Wilson. It was not an NFL caliber game, but I think they probably did the right thing because it was fascinating.
Well, we can't do more Chargers in primetime. Is that who would have taken over this? Lions-Chargers?
Could you have gotten that Houston game? Houston-Cincinnati was the game of the day. It was stuck at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, but we didn't know that was going to be the game of the day, did
well,
we?
I mean,
the Bengals were a 6.5-point favorite.
You have to flex like 3 weeks out, 6.5-point favorite. Yeah, but there was any game. There were so many better quality games. There were so many at least 500 or 500 above teams.
I thought 49ers-Jags would have been the one to flex.
Yeah, 49ers-Jags.
And that ended up not being a game, so.
Yeah, anything could have flexed that. It was good, but this is low quality NFL. And it was interesting watching Collinsworth and the gang try and dress that game up.
No, this was like if you had told me like Antonio Pierce, could he like coach this game, world peace, like every kind of hunger crisis. Like they made it seem like Antonio Pierce could solve every problem that exists in humanity today.
Oh, what do you mean? Because they were pro Antonio Pierce?
Oh, yeah. I mean, they gave him tons and tons of credit. And listen, deserves it, totally fine. I think it's great that he has changed the vibe in Vegas, but the way that Collinsworth was laying it on so thick for Antonio Pierce, I was like, wow, is this guy going to run for president? He could win with Collinsworth as his megaphone.
The line that stood out to me was when he was like, Mark Davis didn't just want a play caller. He wanted a leader. Yeah. And now he's got him.
And then you cut to Mark Davis in the box. You're like, oh, jeez.
Look, Mark Davis now, he got a fresh lineup. His hairline looking great.
You see that? He got a
everything's
new
different.
haircut.
But that goatee thing he's got going on, I don't know if you could even see it because it's so light. Did you see his facial hair?
I mean, look, I've been so focused on the fact that he finally got a decent haircut that he can do no wrong at this point for me.
It's funny. They went shorter with it. It's like up higher.
Yeah,
the
but
haircut.
he's got a real lineup on the sides now. So it's not like this like little oval thing that he was doing for the last however many years.
Yeah, bowl cut is what it's called. Who do you think got to him?
I think it might have been Antonio Pierce.
About the hair?
Yeah,
no.
maybe I sound like Chris Collinsworth, but I'm going to give him credit. I mean, look, Antonio Pierce is probably a guy that didn't have a lot of FaceTime with the owner. And he probably said, look, when it comes down to our image, and he talked a lot, or at least Collinsworth talked a lot about how, hey, we got to get away from being the Patriots way and being the Raiders way. And then Antonio Pierce talked about, I'm from Compton, I'm all about NWA. Like, I'm sure he said, look, brother, thank you for this job. But I think the first thing we got to do to help this image out
is change the hair.
Hairline. I'll handle the cigars. You handle the hairline.
Wait.
It's a great theory. Here's how I think that might have actually went down in practice. First of all, I think he did talk to the owner a lot, which is why he's the coach now. I think they were going to dinner together, and I think he did have a straight line to the owner. There's two ways you can handle this. One, you just have the barber show up and be like, hey, the barber's here. Like, hey, you want to get something new? And everyone's like, yeah, do it, or something like that. The second thing, you get to the girlfriend. And the girlfriend, you're like, hey, you got to get a different haircut. And then she somehow gets him to get a new haircut.
Give it 3 weeks. Davis has a fade, chain, and an NWA hat.
My hope is that
Yikes.
like Davis ends up looking like Norman Osborn from Spider-Man, where he's got like the red hair, but he's got the waves and the fresh lineup. Like if Mark Davis could pull off that look, like I think to me the Raiders are going all the way to the Super Bowl.
This is it.
I don't know what game you guys are watching. You must have had some alternate feed. Mark Davis looked like the same Mark Davis on the sideline last night. Everybody on my Twitter feed was making fun of how bad he looked.
No, but he did get a new haircut. You can tell the hair is different.
About the lineup, the lineup in the front. Normally he has like this oval lineup, and now on the sides it actually looks put together. Like I don't know how else to describe it.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Right.
So he cut it on the sides a little bit?
Yeah, the
I don't
lineup
know.
has been
It's not
the
exactly
worst
Jimmy
part of his
G.
haircut. Like there's a lot of things going wrong, but the lineup is by far the worst, and he at least fixed that. So we're on the right track here.
You said it's not Jimmy G. Well, he can't change faces. I mean, this isn't like we're not sending him under the knife. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. I mean, it's a pair of scissors. It's not a scalpel.
I mean, I think like Mark Davis is probably paying that barber who's been doing his haircut poorly probably $200 a haircut, probably
more.
Like, and think about that. Like, who's getting paid more to do a worse job than Mark Davis' barber?
All the fired coaches.
Brian Dable. Brian Dable is the answer to that.
Yeah.
Brian Dable. We got a few candidates there. Coming up, speaking of fired coaches making out like bandits, we've got that for you next. Don't move. Maggie and Perloff, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Prescott's under center, fakes it to Pollard, gives a reverse to Lamb, block on the edge. Lamb will walk the dog. Which is quite a sight, a Lamb walking the dog, but touchdown Dallas.
That was Cowboys radio.
What does that mean?
A touchdown celebration.
Oh, I didn't see the touchdown. What did he do?
Walk the dog. I don't know which touchdown they were referring to actually on this one. 11
sure
catches
end around.
For 151 yards and one touchdown. Just one touchdown for CeeDee Lamb.
Is that because he was walking so slowly into the end zone that it looked like he was walking?
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. He had a rushing touchdown, too.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that play was the end around.
Okay, there you go.
Yes, 14-yard touchdown run.
There you are.
That's pretty cool. CeeDee Lamb, telling you guys, if you're going to have a wide receiver MVP, this is the year. Tyreek Hill's your front runner, obviously, but I think, who's the MVP of the Cowboys offense? Is it Dak or CeeDee Lamb? I know the quarterback always gets it, but without CeeDee Lamb, that quarterback is in big trouble.
Well, let's do our Cowboy quickie, shall we? All right, well, here is Dak Prescott talking about his number one wide receiver, CeeDee Lamb.
We put a lot of work into this thing, going well back into the spring. Really in the past years, but just knowing coming in this year after last year what we worked on and what we started, we just knew that we could continue to get better, and we're just showing it, and this guy's special. He makes my job easy.
I mean, it looked easy yesterday. Again, 11 catches, 151 yards, a receiving touchdown, a rushing touchdown. It was thorough domination.
Yeah. CD is the first Cowboys receiver to get 600 yards in a 4-game stretch of all time. He's going to fly up the charts. And obviously, it's a different era, but he's going to probably be the most productive Cowboys receiver of all time if this keeps up. He's become a superstar. I mean, he's now a face of the league. I thought he was incredible against the Eagles in a losing effort. And the Cowboys have kind of a light schedule a few games here. I think the Cowboys stock is going to go way up.
At Carolina, Washington, Seattle, then it gets Philly, at Buffalo, at Miami, Detroit, Washington again.
Some easy defenses, tough games, easy defenses in there. You know, Detroit, Washington, you can rack up a lot of yards there.
That's your Cowboy Quickie. I do think, though, that the thing about the Cowboys is these two major wins against the Giants just stand out so much. I wonder if people are smart enough to see the sort of stat padding that went on.
Nope.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if it ends up kind of hurting them. You know, it's like, well, you did all this, it's great, but you know, you basically you ran up the score on a Giants team that could barely get a first down.
Well, the Panthers are going to run up even more scores. I just don't think the public views it like that. I think they forget who they're playing, and then they look at the overall stat line, and you sit back, you're like, wow, Dak Prescott should be in the MVP conversation just because of the numbers. Honestly, as good as Dak was yesterday, I thought he played a better game in a losing effort to the Eagles because he threw that terrible pick early in the game against the Giants. And what does that prove? I think what you're saying is the same thing I'm saying. What does that prove, torching the Giants?
855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Andrew Bogusch is here with some headlines. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Raiders-Jets was 3-3 in terms of field goals through 3 quarters of Sunday Night Football. Somebody finally got in the end zone early in the fourth.
Snap, fakes it to Jacobs, looks to the left, has to get out of the backfield, lobs it to the back corner, jump ball, caught! Touchdown Raiders! Michael Mayer took it over a Jets defender and a jump ball, and the Raiders take the lead. Holy cow! His first career touchdown is a beauty.
It's good to be on Raiders radio, Jason Horowitz, the call there.
Man, they've really been locked up over there, huh? That was an amazing touchdown. It was just definitely not a play design call.
No, not even a little bit.
The offensive coordinator can't get any credit for this, or Antonio Pierce for that matter. I know they want to give credit for every single thing for the sun coming up yesterday, but that was just Mayer making a play.
The Jets would kick their 4th field goal shortly thereafter, but Zach Wilson was then picked off at the Raider 15 with 74 seconds left. Vegas survived a Hail Mary to win 16-12. Robert Saleh's team might have won if it didn't commit 8 penalties for 83 yards.
They know what the rules are. They're just coming at the worst times, obviously.
So they know not to do it, but they keep doing it.
This is how to blame your players 101.
Oof, one of the penalties negated a Breece Hall touchdown run. Others forced the Jets to settle for those field goals. They're now 4-5 with the Bills and Dolphins coming next.
EJ, I'm going to defend your Jets. That Uzama holding call on the Breece, that was garbage. That was hot garbage.
Uzama holds so much that, like, maybe it was bad, but I'm so tired of Uzama.
I don't know, but why are you calling that on a 2-yard run? He sort of half
tackled the guy who would have tackled the ball.
Oh, God, no way. That was such a weak. First of all, any running
I love
every
you.
holding call on a run play is weak to start with by definition. That one was particularly.
But that almost felt like to me, and I know not everybody watches Jet games, that almost felt like, you're a repeat offender, a guy who constantly holds and constantly gets dumb penalties. So if it's close, they're going to throw it on Uzama.
That hold is 200 times a game you see holds as egregious as that. There's no reason to call that. I don't even know why they did. First of all, a 2-yard run, what does a hold do? And I just think it's the most.
He tackled Max Crosby, who was going to choose chasing Breece Hall.
Tackled. He put his arm up. Yeah, Max
around
Crosby
his back and pulled him down.
Oh, get out of here.
But by your logic, then there should never be a penalty called again.
I don't like holds on run. A 2-yard run play, a hold is garbage.
I will say this, like in that Cowboys game, I mean, there was a play where Dak Prescott ran for a touchdown, and it was so clear that Kayvon Thibodeau was held, and the refs looking right at it, and he did not care. Yeah. That was one of those, let's just get out of here and let's just get in as quick as possible.
Dak basically, he walked into the end zone, too.
Crazy. The Red Sea parted.
It doesn't have to be so dramatic, but that's how the Steelers win 23-19 over the Packers yesterday. They've now won the last 9 games decided by 8 points or less.
I'm really just appreciative the mindset of our group, man. They want to make the significant plays and the significant moments, and it's a good thing because these games are always tight.
Mike Tomlin's defense picked off Jordan Love twice in the final 320. Najee Harris, Jalen Warren combined for 183 yards and 2 scores on the ground. Pittsburgh, though, did lose linebacker Quan Alexander to a likely torn Achilles in the win tonight.
Sorry, we had a disagreement about this. I think the Steelers are setting up to be this year's Vikings. And by that, I mean a team that wins close games, and then if they do make it to the playoffs, which they could, they're going to lose in the first round. Like, it's going to be, your luck ran out.
There's also the debate of whether or not they're winning because of Mike Tomlin or in spite of Mike Tomlin.
Or Kenny Pickett or Matt Canada.
Yeah.
Why do people always do that with Mike Tomlin?
Yeah, I don't
There's
understand.
a lot of people in Pittsburgh who think that they're overcoming things that he's partially to blame for.
Mainly Matt Canada, though. Is there other
the
stuff?
offensive philosophy being so...
And just because last year, I thought he should have gotten Coach of the Year votes, not won it. And I did a Sportsman on it, and I got, for me, a lot of response from Pittsburgh people going, he's the reason why they were 4-8. So now when they're 8-8, you can't say he's Coach of the Year. And the same thing's happening now. People think that he's part of the problem, not the guy fixing and overcoming the problems.
I just don't. Like, you look at their roster. I just don't see. I know Maggie had them in the Super Bowl. I just don't see a 12-13 win. Oh, sorry. I don't see a 12-13 win team.
And they're 6-3 right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Like you're talking about coaching jobs, and look, every team every week can complain about the decision their coaches make.
Right.
But do you look at the Steelers and say
Except
this is
for
a
Dan
team
Campbell.
that's 6-3 but should be 8-1?
If there was an elite quarterback, yes, definitely
Right,
Super Bowl.
right. If you
And
didn't
I got suckered in by preseason, EJ. I'm not going to lie to you.
Me too. They were scoring
Kenny
points
Pickett,
nonstop.
There's a formula in the NFL. A lot of rookies jump to the second year, and somehow Kenny Pickett took a gigantic step backwards, which is bizarre to me. But if he improved by 40%, which we see all the time, maybe then can
Right,
you
but
see
when
it?
you see Kenny Pickett struggle and you see the play call from Matt Canada, do you look at that and say, well, if we play these games better or coach these games better, we would have won a bunch of games? Like I don't see that.
Yeah, and I'm with you. If I had a team, I'd fire my head coach to make Mike Tomlin my coach.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a pretty strong group in Pittsburgh who think he's as much a part of the problem as anybody. And I guess you could fire Matt Cavanaugh if you want to hold that Matt Canada against him.
I always thought that the criticism for Tomlin came in the playoffs. That's where, bad loss against the Denver Broncos, which is probably like the one that I think people look back to. And a couple early exits in the playoffs when they shouldn't have.
I feel like that's a Cowboy thing. Everyone kills a cow. I don't hear a lot of Tomlin.
Steeler fans talk about that.
Well, they had knuckleheads all over that building. They had this great veteran defense that won a Super Bowl, got to another. Then they had Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell. At a certain point, character is going to come into it. They had all
Credit
the talent.
for Tomlin to keep everybody, sort of on the field. He basically kept everyone on the field until the very end with Antonio Brown.
But that's why I thought you couldn't win, because they would sabotage you.
All right, what else?
We're still firing college coaches today. Zach Arnett is reportedly out at Mississippi State after Texas A&M gave Jimbo Fisher the boot, and Boise State dismissed Andy Avalos yesterday. Arnett and Avalos said to be owed $84.39. It is $76 million for Jimbo.
Did you know that he's the new Bobby Bonilla now, too?
Yeah.
It's not going to be one lump sum for Jimbo. They learned their lesson. The A&M boosters, learned their lesson when they had to pay Kevin Sumlin about $10 million in a lump sum back in 2018. So now they're prorating it. So they basically pay him a little bit from now to eternity.
And I cannot believe that no matter what he does this day forward, he gets every cent of that.
Yep.
There's
it doesn't
no offset
offset
language. If he gets a new job, nothing. He's going to get that on top of any other coaching salary he gets the rest of the way.
By the way, Zach Arnett did give a $4 million buyout, too, or something.
I couldn't care less.
Yeah, but I'm just saying.
$89 sounded better.
Zach Arnett for $4 million, that's crazy, too.
I didn't know he was the coach until today.
Yeah.
Will Arnett's the only Arnett I'm familiar with these days.
Honestly, I just want to be a fired Texas A&M coach. Please. I would give anything.
The Victor Wembanyama Rookie of the Year campaign took a hit last night. He and the Spurs blew an early 19-point lead, lost to the Heat 118-113. It's now a 5-game skid for Greg Popovich's young men.
It's a championship team. And too many mistakes. A little bit of sloppiness on some passes. It creates some turnovers, some undisciplined fouls, and it adds up.
Wemby scored 18, but was 8 for 22 from the field. And the Columbus Crew scored 3 goals in the first 33 minutes to beat Atlanta United 4-2 to win their third and final game. Up next, a 1-game Eastern Conference semifinal with Orlando City. Guys, back to you.
I have a new savior on my Victor Wembanyama bet. Putting all my eggs in the Chet Holmgren basket to win Rookie of the Year and save me from driving to San Antonio. Seems to be a little narrative. He's the hot guy. Oklahoma City looks pretty good. They can win. I don't know how people...
Here's another tall, skinny dude.
Yeah. How do people vote on Rookie of the Year? If you have a winning playoff team, does that help Chet Holmgren?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, it didn't help Carmelo Anthony. He won his team was the playoffs, and they still gave it to LeBron. So if that happens, we could have a part 2 of that, really.
Yeah, I mean, LeBron was pretty good.
I know, but Carmelo Anthony, Carmelo's numbers were almost even, and Carmelo's team had like a 30-win increase that year, and they still gave it to LeBron James. It's funny. I hate this because as a Gonzaga fan, I love Chet Holmgren, and I've been rooting for Chet Holmgren, and I was upset when he got hurt. But now that we're on this show and Perloff is Mr. Anti-Wemby, now what, I got to root against Chet Holmgren because now you become a Chet Holmgren guy? Like, how's this going to do? I'm a Gonzaga fan.
Listen, what am I supposed to go to Oscar Thompson? What am I supposed to do?
You got Brandon Miller. Scoot Henderson will come back eventually. Like, you got other rookies. You got to take my guy.
Brandon Miller got hurt yesterday.
Oh, great. I forgot about that. And that was a Knick game, too.
Let's go Knicks.
By the way, just a little statistic to make you nervous. Chet Holmgren shooting 55%. Victor Wembanyama, 44%.
Kid's a stud. I know this. And this has now got me worried because I may have to root against Chet Holmgren, something I never thought I'd have to do. Thank you.
We're really comparing shooting percentages for guys who are 7'4" and above.
Have you ever driven for 27 hours straight, Maggie? You can do the same thing.
Good gosh. All right. Thank you, Bogish. Let's go to the phones quickly. 855-212-4CBS. Our pal Hung's in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Good morning, Hung.
Good morning. Good morning. How y'all doing?
Amazing. How are you?
Yeah, good. Great. I want to talk about a Michigan scandal that you guys talked about this morning. And, I disagree with you, but I agree with Perloff. Everybody down there doing the same thing, like stealing sign, all that stuff. But why they target Coach Harbaugh? Because you know what? He's doing so well. So I got one word for all y'all haters out there. Stop being hater. Jealousy. Don't be jealous because they're doing well. Michigan get a better team. And I'm sure your show doing so well, you're going to have a lot of haters out there, too.
Yeah.
So all the haters, stop being a hater. You know what I'm saying?
Hung.
I 100% know what you're saying, Hung.
It's amazing. Thank you for that. I think we needed that on a Monday, too. Thank you. Like a little life lesson, This isn't just about sports. It's like a religion.
Yeah.
Stop hating everybody.
You go out there and you wear pleated khakis and you make fun of the opposing coach when you win a game. It's going to catch up to you. Stop being a hater. Man, it's funny.
I like Hung's attitude, though.
You talked about EJ being in an uncomfortable spot rooting for somebody. I'm full on rooting for Michigan. I'm just going to say it right now. I want them to beat Ohio State. And I love it. I'm actually an Ohio State fan. But,
no.
I love
You're
Ohio
a Penn State fan.
No, I have lots of fandoms.
You cannot say those words and say you're rooting for Michigan.
You're a Penn State fan.
Well,
you said that's Philly's team, which was then debunked by our boss, who's also from Philly.
But the quarterback and the wide receiver at Ohio State are both from Philadelphia. So that gives me a big in. I'm a big Ryan Day fan. Think he's underrated. Come on, I get Ohio State.
You cannot step foot into Ohio saying you root for Ohio State, but now you're rooting for Michigan.
I don't root for like an Ohio State Buckeyes fans root for them, but I'm a fan of the program because they have a Philly connection.
Okay, don't show up in Columbus anytime soon.
But I'm a huge I love Blake Corum. I love his story. I remember from the high school documentary. He's awesome. Yeah, you're right. That is a little weak. I'm not anti-Michigan. I'm not going to be in a commercial on ESPN rooting against Michigan.
I mean, look, Blake Corum seems to have a great story. There are guys on that team I'm sure you can root for. You know who doesn't like Blake Corum's story or doesn't want to root for Blake Corum in that team? People from Ohio. I would avoid that.
Perloff, it looks a certain type of way when you're like, I love Penn State, and then they lose to Michigan. You're nope, I love Michigan.
Look at my Twitter feed. I said very clearly, when Ohio State played Penn State, I said, if Ohio State wins, I'm an Ohio State fan because of Kyle McCord.
Yeah.
And if Penn State loses, I'm off the Penn State bandwagon.
You're not the only one. Did you guys see the video? You can't really air it, but it's James Franklin who's walking through the tunnel after the game, and the fans are just booing the absolute bejesus out of him. And I get it. I mean, right now, what is he? 4-16 against Ohio State and Michigan. He's not getting fired. His buyout is huge, too, and I actually think Penn State cares about that kind of thing. I know he fired his offensive coordinator yesterday, but you're coach with an offensive background, you know? They're cycling through offensive coordinators and wide receivers coaches at Penn State like crazy.
I blame the fans here. Like, what on earth did you expect to happen on Saturday?
They've got a 5-star quarterback.
Have you been paying attention at all? Of course James Franklin is going to blow that game. But the dude does put up double-digit win seasons. I don't think the expectation in Penn State is the same as Alabama. You know, you're not going to – I don't think you fire the coach because you don't win a title.
I don't even know what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you could string together 5-10 win seasons in a row for Penn State, that might be enough.
I think people are getting a little anxious over there. 855-2124-CBS, 855-212-4227. Of course, we do have, more head coaches being shown the door. We'll get you all the latest. Don't move. Maggie and Perloff, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back. Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. Maggie and Perloff here on CBS Sports Radio. Jimbo Fisher fired. Kind of surprising because the money, but not at all. It was going to be a matter of when, not if Jimbo was going to get shown the door. But still, when you read $76 million to go away, it still is jarring, Perloff, to the point where we know that there's a lot of money in college football. And now it's like you get your nose rubbed in just how much ridiculous money is in this sport.
But we've been debating what do they do about this for all coming into the season.
Yeah.
We were wondering, are they going to pay out Jimbo Fisher? I'm not quite sure. Is it the coach or is it the program or what went wrong here exactly? Because maybe I'm an idiot. I thought Jimbo Fisher was a pretty good coach when he won the title at Florida State.
Well, I think what happened was there was a extension that happened for Jimbo Fisher, right? He was maybe outperforming his contract at the very beginning. And then once the extension hit, he basically stopped winning in the SEC, stopped beating Power 5 schools. And the irony is they were recruiting better than ever because they have so much money. Obviously, they're paying the coach $70+ million to go away. And they weren't winning on the field. And now with a, what do they have, 4-6 record or whatever? So, or 6-4 record, pardon me. So I think it's a matter of expectations. And when you gave that massive extension to Fisher, you were thinking title team.
Yeah. And you have a lot of money in that program. You could pay a lot in NIL. I'm not sure they've gotten their NIL program totally underneath them, but they should be able to outbid anybody on anything because of the oil money down there. They're one of those teams, by the way, never should have joined the SEC. That's a warning shot for Texas and Oklahoma because as good as they are, their schedule is ridiculous every year. So I think it's a hard spot, but I tell you, I think that's a bit of a sleeping giant at A&M. I think if they get the right quarterback and the right coach there, they can do some damage.
I think that's the question. A, can you buy a title? And especially a team that does not have like this really big tradition of winning. Can you buy a title? And then two, is this an attractive place to take a job? It's attractive because you'll get super rich no matter what, but your reputation might be left in tatters.
Why? I mean, besides Jimbo Fisher, I don't think it left Kevin Sumlin in tatters.
Maybe not, but like if you are expected to go there to win,
right,
and that's not possible at a place like A&M, if that's just not a program that's going to win a national title,
but
then
maybe
you're always going to look like you fell short.
But maybe Jimbo lowered the bar a little bit so they can bring in maybe a more of a younger coach, maybe an up-and-coming coach, try and find the next guy instead of just going for a big name like Jimbo.
Maybe. I just think that what's the real expectation? Again, I'd love to take this job. Pay me.
Yeah. I mean, I think with Texas A&M, they got to be realistic about who they are, right? I mean, this is a program that doesn't have a winning culture. They haven't been ever an elite program. And they keep thinking that they're going to just buy their way to a championship when we see that that's not the formula. I mean, Kevin Sumlin didn't work. Francione didn't work. Mike Sherman didn't work. Like, I just think that Texas A&M moving as if that they're one of these elite programs is just fantasy land. They're clearly not. We've seen this now for over 20 years.
Well, that 1 year with Johnny, they basically expanded the entire stadium because Johnny Manziel had 2 good seasons.
Right. And that was 2 seasons.
Let's get to our shot of the day.
He shoots!
And the shot of the day is brought to you by Casamigos Tequila. Casamigos is brought to you by those who drink it. And the Casamigos was flowing this weekend. Today's shot of the day is us getting duped by Andrew Bogusch.
Can we all agree the audience is way tougher than we are? Just
I think
concede
we've
that
acknowledged
fact.
that.
Yeah, I'm soft.
We've
Yeah.
acknowledged that many, many times. There's no heroes on this show. We're not,
There's a reason.
no martyrs here.
Yeah, there's a reason that we're doing sports talk radio and we're not firemen. We're not tough.
No.
We're not tough dudes here.
We would not be able to handle even the first day on the job. Andrew Bogusch is here with headlines.
Used to be a fireman. It was too.
You were a
It was too
fireman?
boring. So
What?
I switched to radio. No,
Yeah,
of course
right.
not.
I was like, wait a minute. What?
You said that so convincingly.
I'm also an
Bogusch.
actor
Maybe
and
there's-
scene.
Maybe a volunteer fireman? I could see that.
Not even a little bit. I would be denied.
Why did we all think that Bogusch honestly was a fireman? What's gotten into us? Let's quickly get in Caleb. He's in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, wants to weigh in on Mike Tomlin. Caleb, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good, guys. Thank you so much for taking my call. My spidey senses went up when I heard the Steelers discussion. I'm an ardent Tomlin defender, and it was interesting when you guys talked about people in Pittsburgh not liking the fact that, thinking the Steelers might be winning in spite of Tomlin rather than because of him. And I think it's smaller than you think it is.
Okay.
The amount of people that actually think that.
Got it.
I think a lot of people are conscious of Matt Canada, that he's been holding the offense back with the anemic play calling. Perloff, you were not alone in buying into the offseason hype, but it's the preseason hype, but it is the preseason, and Pickett obviously has looked way worse. This is a bottom 10 roster in the NFL, maybe even lower. I think the offense is awful outside of the entire team is awful outside of TJ Watt. Mike Tomlin's a top 3 coach in the NFL. The fact that he hasn't had a losing season at all,
it's amazing.
Really impressive.
Caleb, I'm so sorry. We snuck in the call at the end. I'm sorry we're up against it. Thank you for making that point. I think people look at Tomlin and say the last playoff game you won was 2016 season.
I think
It's been a while.
They say you keep winning with a bad team.
We got to go. Thank you, EJ Stewart. Thank you to Manny Rodriguez, Andrew Bogusch, Andrew Kaplan, Weedos, Coffee Drinkers. We'll see you tomorrow.
You're in a 5-minute break.